registration and recruitment, deployment and transfer, promotion and standardized remuneration, as well as performance monitoring and welfare of all pre-primary teachers. Initially, the mandate solely lied with the Nancy Macharia-led commission. The committee wants the government to develop the internal capacity to print KCPE and KCSE exams in the country to cut down on cost. Previously, the national exams were printed outside the country to protect the integrity of the exams.
These recommendations contained in the report of the Working Party shall be implemented not in the future, but beginning now. We must now direct our attention to the implementation of the recommendations set out in the report. The relevant ministries, departments, agencies must quickly familiarize themselves with the report and expeditiously work with all parties, including the Office of the Attorney General.
President William Ruto has now tasked the Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Machogu and the Attorney General Justin Muturi to implement the task force recommendation.
The report, Your Excellency, also includes an implementation matrix, and it has time frames, and that to us is extremely important. And we are giving the time frames in which these need to be implemented.
I want to commit to you that I will lead the team that will make sure that the recommendations are implemented.
This has indeed elicited a lot of debate on social media platforms, and we welcome your views in regard to the recommendations therein of that particular task force. We'll be looking at its implementation and the far-reaching effects it will have. Now, on to matters security. 2 people have been confirmed dead and 10 others injured following a suspected terror attack along the Lamu-Witu-Garsen Highway at Langos La Simba near the border of Lamu and Tana River counties. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki, while confirming the attack, said the number of missing persons is yet to be established, and a multi-agency search is currently operation is currently underway for the missing civilians. Albeit some good news is among those who escaped the attacks with minor injuries is Hindi Member of County Assembly James Njanga.
According to the statement released by the Interior Ministry, the suspected terror attack that has left 2 persons dead occurred at approximately 7:40 a.m. Tuesday morning. Security personnel from the Nyongoro Forward Operating Base who are conducting clearance patrols along the highway responded rapidly, and an engagement with the approximately 60 terrorists ensued, sending them scattering into the Boni forest. Eyewitnesses recalling the incident in which Hindi Member of County Assembly James Njanga survived with minor injuries. His wife is reported to be among the casualties.
Nilipofika katikati ya Witu na Garseni, mahali kunaitwa Kijo kwenye msikiti, nikaja nikapitwa na Probox. Probox iliponipita mbele kidogo kama dakika 2, nikaona grupu ya watu kama 15 wametoka msituni wanakimbilia ile Probox na kuanza kuimiminia risasi. Kwa hivyo mimi nikasimama. So niliposimama kujua ni maadui, nilipogeuka na mimi nikapigwa risasi ya mkono, nikawa siwezi kuendesha pikipiki, nikaangusha pikipiki na mimi nikaanza kuroll.
2 of the victims of this attack had life-threatening injuries, as a result of which one succumbed during evacuation for emergency intensive care unit treatment.
Hatuna uhakika ya namba yenyewe ni wagonjwa wangapi, lakini sisi kama idara ya afya na hapa Witu Health Center tumejiandaa kivovote kuhakikisha kwamba any casualty ambayo kwamba ameweza kufika hapa tutaweza kumhudumia na kupata matibabu inavyohitajika.
The area leadership now calling for beefing up of security in the county to bring to an end the menace.
Nalilia kitengo cha usalama watudumishie usalama, kwa sababu hii barabara yetu kila kukicha Lamu tumechoka. Watuwekee usalama, watuongezee vitengo vya usalama zaidi ili barabara yetu tupite kwa usalama.
A search and rescue operation for the missing civilians is currently underway, even as the injured continue receiving treatment.
And as Yusuf Farah gives that report, we're going to be keeping tabs on that rescue operation. Now, in what is being termed as the President Reading the Riots Act, is that he said that officials in his administration, those who he accused of lethargy in the handling of official business. Now the head of state presided over the signing of a performance contract at the State House, Nairobi, and warned that he will not entertain officers who take their work casually and those that are corrupt. He said he is keen on fulfilling his pre-election pledges. 2 cabinet secretaries and a number of principal secretaries were locked out of the event for failing to arrive on time.
Performance contract signing held at State House, Nairobi, was the 20th in post-independence Kenya, highlighting the importance of the event for the government. However, for some senior members of the cabinet, it was going to be a bad day, as some were caught in traffic a kilometer to the State House gate. By the time the ceremony was commencing, Interior Cabinet Secretary and his investment and trade colleague Moses Kuria were missing. And so were a host of principal secretaries, prompting the president's reaction.
I don't know whether it is because these performance contracts have been going on for 20 years that many people maybe mistakenly think that it is a ritual. And that is why people resort to the old incompetent excuses that there was traffic. If you cannot keep time with your employer, you have basically dismissed yourself.
Those who never made it to the event will have to make an explanation.
For those who came late, who are members of the executive, I will be expecting a written explanation, and it should not include matters of traffic.
Leo ni siku ya performance contract. Ile siku muhimu sana ya kuja kuweka. Na wewe umefika pale, rais amekaa. Tayari amekaa na ndiye rais wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Wewe umechelewa ukiwa kuona nani? Who else have you gone to see? These are things myself I don't understand. As I said, mimi sielewi.
The head of state warning that he would clamp down on errant members of his cabinet, displaying lethargy, and that his administration has no option but to fulfill its pre-election pledges.
This administration is committed, fully committed, to the implementation of the pledges and commitments contained in our bottom-up economic transformation agenda plan.
The president ordered the cabinet secretaries to be well versed with their dockets, saying it was unfortunate that some were not even aware of happenings in their offices.
At times we have tried to hold cabinet committees, we can't. 5, 6, 7, 8 ministers are out of the country. Some change clothes at the airport from one country to another.
The moment I know more than you in your ministry, then you must begin to understand that something is very wrong. Because by constitution, you are supposed to advise me. Explain to me how you are going to advise me if you have less information than I do.
Once more, President Ruto sounded a warning shot to senior government officials involved in corruption that he would personally oversee their exit from government.
And we are not going to wait until public money is lost. The moment there is signs that you have intentions of doing something, we will deal with you firmly and summarily.
The performance contracts outline the absorption of all funds allocated to ministries, departments and agencies, measures of reducing pending bills, digitization of services, completion of projects, environmental conservation through the planting of trees, and internship programs. The signing of performance contracts for the financial year 2023-2024 signals a new dawn for accountability under President William Ruto. The president is firing a warning shot against the corrupt and inept in public service that he will not spare them.
Shows why. Now, the search for the country's next director of public prosecution inched closer following the start of the vetting exercise of 7 out of the 15 applicants shortlisted for the position. Among those grilled by the selection panel were former IEBC Commissioner Thomas Letangule, Assistant Director of Public Prosecution Jacinta Nyamosi, and lawyer Danstan Omari. Give us on Minor with the details.
The battle to succeed Nordin Haji began Tuesday morning as a selection panel chaired by Solicitor General Shadrach Mose interviewed the first batch, comprising of 7 of the 15 candidates shortlisted for the position. The interviews held in camera began with the former commissioner of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Thomas Letangule. Letangule, who emerged from the interview room, said he will prioritize the war on graft if appointed.
You must work with the National Police Service closely. You must work with KRA and all those agencies. So as a DPP, for you to achieve, you must work closely with the rest of the...
Assistant Director of Public Prosecution Jacinta Nyamosi, who successfully prosecuted the much publicized murder case of lawyer Willie Kimani, was second to face the panel, followed by Victor Mule, a Deputy Director at the office of the DPP. They both expressed optimism on the outcome of the vetting process.
That is possibly one of the things I may have answered, and that would be unfair. It would be unfair to the other candidates.
Taib Ali Taib, who was appointed special prosecutor in the Kimarole and Arol case, and senior assistant DPP Tabitha Wanyama were next in line.
Opportunity to present himself or herself for consideration for such a position.
I will ensure that there is an open, flat platform and flow of information so that there will be no mystery about the office, our activities, and our delivery of services.
Assistant DPP David Lagat and lawyer Dunstan Omari were among the last 2 to face the panel on the first day.
The Director of Public Prosecution controls every criminal investigation in this country. As much as I've said it, we are happy that this has been successful. May the best person win.
The race to succeed Nordin Haji as the next Director of Public Prosecutions is expected to end on Wednesday as the Shadrach Mose-led selection panel interviews the remaining 8 candidates.
And you bet we're going to be keeping tabs on that with Give Us On Minor being today, that is Wednesday. Now we speak business, where sugar shortage is likely to persist over the next 6 months due to scarcity of sugarcane. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi told Parliament Kenya will be forced to rely on imports as most local sugar companies remain shut due to insufficient cane to mill.
Kenya has been grappling with insufficient sugarcane that has seen some millers suspending operations. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary says the situation is likely to persist over the next 6 months. Linturi says Kenya will be forced to rely on imports.
Decided to close all the sugar mills for the next couple of months. My question is, what precautions have you set to the sugar mills? Aren't they going to close down?
The Sugar Directorate and a meeting, remember, in Kisumu, where all the millers were called, and decision has been taken to close the mills because people have been harvesting young cane.
Global sugar prices have surged to a decade high due to reduced production in Brazil and India.
Average consumption of sugar is 83,000 metric tons. The 5 companies are not able to crush 500.
Linturi was at pains to explain to legislators the status of Miwani Sugar Company that has been under receivership for over 20 years.
Audits of 22 years which are not there. You don't have them. What will you be explaining to us?
When senior officers feign ignorance, I think it leaves us a little bit disturbed as well.
This committee to go into camera, release the media, and then I will be able to discuss 1 or 2 things with you.
The Agriculture Cabinet Secretary pledged to publish in 2 weeks measures that would turn around the sugar value chain.
A kilo of sugar currently retails at an average of 260 shillings across the country. Now, to matters electricity, legislators are accusing Kenya Power of paying for undelivered power by independent power producers. The Energy Committee of the National Assembly says IPPs is charging Kenya Power even when there is a power outage caused by system failure. The committee now says they want the power purchasing agreements renegotiated to make them fairer to power consumers. The committee is probing the high cost of energy in the country.
Kenya Power has been struggling with serious system losses that jumped to 23.5% in the period to March this year, according to the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority. This is a 4% increase compared to the previous period, which is against the allowable margins of 20%. In the same period, Kenya Power purchased 6,671 gigawatts and sold 5,104 gigawatts, with the rest being lost to system losses, wastages and theft, according to EPRA. The Parliament Energy Committee says it is the consumer who is paying for the system losses, since independent power producers end up billing the utility firm.
85% of my revenue goes towards paying the bank. So if my interest is increased, it means that it's sustainable, or I will not be able to pay the bank.
We are paying land lease for those many years. It's a cost that we should not have incurred.
It is not just about business. It's not just about making your money. It is also about how much it is also going to affect the end consumer. We must engage so that we also look at those that have already been signed as take or pay, what kind of adjustments without putting a lot of pressure on your investors can be done.
KenGen, which is a state-owned power generator, charges up to 5 shillings per kilowatt, while IPPs bill the power retailer 3 times more of the same power, according to the Auditor General. However, the IPPs have said that the rates are arrived at using scientific and best global practices, but they are willing to renegotiate their agreements with the government. If the government fails to reach an agreement with the independent power producers and they probably decide to terminate their contracts, then the taxpayers may be obligated to pay them for the remaining period if the IPPs decide to go to court and the court rules in their favor. This therefore makes renegotiating the available power purchase agreements a key yet delicate viable option, as intensified scrutiny on the independent power producers continues to be a daunting task.
Now let's speak a little bit of sports, where the national women's cricket team will take part in the bilateral series set to be held between the 16th and the 26th of this month in Indonesia. The team, which has been training at the Ruaraka Sports Club in preparation for the event, will face hosts Indonesia and Qatar in the 10-day series.
The national women's cricket team head coach Francis Otieno is confident his team is well prepared to face Indonesia and Qatar in the bilateral series set for the 16th to 26th of this month in Indonesia. The team has been training at the Ruaraka Sports Club for the last 2 weeks in preparations for the series.
So far so good according to the training we have been given for the last 2 weeks.
Indonesia is ranked above Kenya by 2 places, so we really want to go and play them, and if we can be able to beat them, then that means that we'll have gained more points for Kenya, so we can be able to go ahead of them in terms of the ranking. So our biggest goal is to make sure that we go to Indonesia and try to win games against Indonesia, who are higher ranked team than the Kenya.
Otieno said the team will also travel to Botswana in September for the Division 2 qualifiers, which will involve a total of 8 teams.
We take a squad of 14 players, final squad of 14 players, but in the camp at the moment we are about 20 players in the camp.
The team also hopes to qualify for Division 1 qualifiers in Uganda in December, where the top 2 teams qualify for global qualifiers.
That effectively puts a cap on matters in the headlines, and also congratulations to Kenya's Faki Amina Martha, who defeated her CBC Lenthokule of South Africa 52-54 kilograms bout at the ongoing AFCBC Boxing Championship in Yaoundé, Cameroon. Our website is open for your perusal for further details regarding sports, business, as also what is happening in the political scene. I'm Regina Manyara. Take a quick breather. When we're back, we're going to be speaking the state of the nation with none other than Victor Olo. To keep it right here.
Watu wa Mai Mahiu mupo. Stesheni uipendayo ya Shoro FM imekuandalia tamasha kali ya Mugithi Night Jumamosi tarehe 5 Agosti mwaka huu hapo VIP Nest Lounge Mai Mahiu. Karabi na bendi yake wataporomosha burudani kabambe kuanzia saa 2 za usiku hadi che. Ma-MC wetu wa nguvu Mwana Mwende, Joseph Njenga na makoha wa Vioja Mahakamani wamewatayarishia vichekesho kemkema na zawadi kocho za kushindaniwa. Mafansu wa Naivasha na Mai Mahiu mnaombwa kujitokeza tujumuike pamoja kupiga sherehe. Hii itakuwa kali sana.
The 2022 general election in Kenya.
I, Susan Kihika, do hereby swear.
7 women governors.
Tabitha Karanja Kiroche, having been elected a member of the Senate.
3 women in the Senate.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the people and the Republic of Kenya.
29 women in the National Assembly. And 115 women in the county assemblies. For Nakuru County, it was a clean sweep. How did they beat the mythical odds? We answer this and more in our themed bulletin, Breaking Barriers, Women in Elective Politics in Kenya.
It's now time for us to take a look at what we have on the viewpoint. But before then, how about I give you the traffic situation in our city here? Okay, let me start with the Nairobi. Good morning, Nairobians. If you're still in the house, let me take you through the traffic in the city. Okay, this is Mombasa. No, let me start with Nairobi. Thank you. Okay, so all the way from Wayakiwe, you still have a moment to drive to work. It's still moving pretty well. All the way from Quickmart to Wayakiwe, coming down to ABC Place, Westlands roundabout there, not so busy, unless there is the place of, when you come towards Consolata, also moving pretty fine. Past Villa Rosa Kempinski, the National Museum interchange there, moving pretty fine. Now, all these people who are using Thika Road, I don't know whether something can be done to heal the situation along Thika Road. It's always perennial. Now, all the way from Kenya Hotali Hotel is bumper to bumper past Madari Mental Hospital there, moving in a snail pace, coming down to Muthaiga Square, right up to the Pangani interchange, also busy. That is also affected. That is Kiambu Road, starting all the way from around, not so much today, but Kiambu Road is busy as you come towards Muthaiga Golf offices, Muthaiga Police Station, also busy, joining Thika Road. That is a place to watch. Okay, and Mombasa Road, no, let me start with the Ngong Road first of all. If you're coming from Ngong Road, it's okay. If you're using Ngong Road, that is your position right now. It's a bit of some snarl because of the traffic situation as you move towards the joining Menelik Road, for example, if you're joining the Fideros, joining Ngong Road. But overall, Ngong Road is moving pretty well. How about if you're using Langata Road? Langata Road all the way from Onyonka, Langata Barracks, down to Wilson Airport, moving vizuri. You have a moment to drive to work as you join that Timor roundabout and up towards Mbagathi Way. towards City Mortuary is also okay. What about if you're joining Uhuru Highway? It's only busy when you're just about the Aerodrome Road, coming to Bunyala roundabout, and ultimately Uhuru Highway coming into the CBD. That's where the problem is. But for those people who are using Mombasa Road, generally, it's moving very well. Outbound, inbound, Mombasa Road moving vizuri sana. That is the traffic situation in Nairobi. And finally, in Mombasa, nothing to report about apart from Nyali Road, which is about, some spots of snarl up there about. But so far, so good. Coming to Kongoya Market, lights there, also okay. Past the new Nyali Bridge, also moving salama kabisa. Jambo Village coming down the other side of Makupa Bridge, I beg your pardon, to Sabasaba into the CBD, moving very well. If you're coming towards the Lekoni Ferry Channel, it's a bit of some snarl up because you have to wait for the ferry to go the other side and come back. That's where the traffic snarl up is where. But basically, it moves. The rule there is, first of all, you have to queue, wait for the ferry to come, board, and go about your business. That's as far as traffic is concerned. I'll take you through the front page of our local newspapers right about now, but just to introduce my guest who are already in studio, I have Wilson Sosion, who is former SecGen of NAT, joining me now, and the current CAS. Mheshimiwa, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning, and good morning, our viewers.
Karibu sana. And Makali Mulu, Member of Parliament, Kitui West. They say Wamukata Mwano.
Thank you, Lord. Good morning.
Good morning. Karibu sana.
It's Kitui Central, not Kitui West.
Kitui Central. I beg your pardon. All right. Yeah. Let me take you through the front page of local dailies. Daily Nation. How school will change. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation. How school will change. Team proposes to ease the burden on learners. There are a raft of changes being given by the presidential workforce, which was constituted to look into the issue of CBC and make some changes into the education system. And a task force appointed by President Ruto has recommended sweeping reforms cutting across all education levels, but largely addressing concerns about the competency-based curriculum that is replacing the nearly 4-decade-old 844 system. If implemented, the proposals will radically alter institutions of learning. We'll get into the details shortly. Riot Act, globetrotting, and unpunctual CSS upset Ruto. We also that yesterday at State House. Maandamano father to bury 2 sons killed by police in Kisumu. The ghost of Maandamano still coming back to haunt us a week or so later. KRA update system to net new heavy taxes. That is what's here. After the Court of Appeal lifted the ban on the Finance Act, Kenya Revenue Authority has reviewed iTax, the online tax system, to reflect the 2 new pay-as-you-earn rates of 32.5% for those earning above 500,000 shillings and 35% for the salaried pocketing more than 800,000 shillings per month. You can take a look at that on the Daily Nation. Gentlemen, finally, the Education Task Force has given its report, and from here, sweeping changes. Let me start with you, Mheshimiwa Sosion. What do you make of these changes before I get to the details?
I think this is one of the most well-done report with a competent team, with the workable recommendations. And remember, Kenya National Union of Teachers, well as at the helm, raised a lot of concerns about the manner in which CBC was being rolled out. And I think this Presidential Working Party has done a wonderful job.
Right.
This is implementation of item number 15 in the education charter, which the president signed with the stakeholders, that of engaging in robust consultations with the public to evaluate the curriculum at its 5th tier, as recommended by UNESCO. UNESCO recommends that all curriculum must be reviewed every 5 years. And while doing this, is cognizant of preserving our strong knowledge-based education system that we've mounted in this country, while again appreciating the skill-based education, competencies of the 21st century, and value-based education without affecting the progress of children. To me, it's a milestone, and I have seen in the report, I've not gotten the hard copy, but I've gone through the soft copy. There is an implementation matrix, and the president himself has said he is going to supervise the implementation of every bit of the provision of the report. And the report has sanitized many administrative challenges and bureaucracies in the ministry, in the education sector, conflict between TSC and the ministry. Now the TSC will take full charge of quality assurance. The quality assurance will be strengthened, because you cannot mount any education system without a strong quality assurance framework to quality assure the teacher management aspect, the retraining of teachers, 1 year retooling on CBC model of education before teaching. I think these are welcome changes. And then the reduction of the learning areas, it was too wide and excessive and unnecessary. And when you look at the consolidation of PP1 and lower primary, upper primary, and junior school, consolidated all as a comprehensive school within the current primary school, that speaks to access, equity, and quality, because household will be able to access education from the current existing primary school for at least up to grade 9. That makes education affordable and accessible. And then a major departure that was going to be a tragedy to run an education system that relies basically on formative evaluation and standardized tests. The reverting to 60% summative evaluation at grade 9, and 70% summative evaluation at grade 12 really protects the knowledge-based education system that we've had, because students will have to prepare for a final exam. There will be a final exam that will be marked.
Maybe one line. What would be your general evaluation on the entire report in terms of what the teachers are going to get and the students as well?
Now, I would summarize it this way, because I've touched key flagship areas that I think have been addressed, including even reduction of the learning areas. I would say this is a very progressive report. The only thing that we need to do is to ensure that it is implemented and it works within the shortest time possible. The pieces of legislation that needs to be undertaken, Parliament should expedite so that it can enable the various aspects of education to function. The reforms that KICD needs to undertake, and we need a very strong leadership and functioning KICD that can deliver all these reforms and all these changes and recommendations within a very short time. They need to be done. But I can say in overall, this is a very progressive report that speaks to the challenges that Kenyans pointed out, that professionals pointed out, and we'll continue analyzing the report with the expert. We'll subject it to expert analysis, and I think the president was properly briefed by the team of professional experts, and he has the insight of how to supervise it. And what we expect is to see the full implementation, and after the implementation, we look at the challenges arising from the implementation of these recommendations.
Let me get Kalimulu's voice on this, because at the end of the day, Mheshimiwa Sosion says that the legislation bit is now what next, some of the pieces that needs to be legislated. But before we come to that, what's your general assessment? It's been long coming. Parents complain that it was so heavy for them. There was lack of preparedness even from the teachers' preparation in terms of how they were going to handle CBC. But all in all, it's now here to stay from the look of things.
Yeah, thank you, Olo. Olo, let me say that as a leader in this country, CBC has faced a lot of challenges.
Yes.
And one of the reasons CBC was facing challenges is because lack of preparedness in terms of implementation of that curriculum. And with this report now, what I can say, and I will make general observations because I've not read the report. I normally don't like commenting on things which I've not read. What I would say, just general observations. The fact that this team took a bit of time to talk to Kenyans, and more so the key stakeholders, the teachers, the academicians, and all that, was a step in the right direction, because that brought a lot of public participation so that you could hear from those who have been affected. The fact that also the team was able to sit and isolate issues which make sense, which don't make sense, to me is important. And what I would say is just listening to what was being said yesterday when the report was being presented. I see a situation where now we have a curriculum which is Honorable Susiani is saying, and with him he's been in this sector for many, many years. So what he says, I take it very seriously. It's like we have a comprehensive now education system where at the lower level we are able to discuss about the PP1 all the way to, is it to Form 4? Around
grade 9.
The basic.
Yes.
And then the higher education. But what I would want to say is basically, as a country, education is very important, and what we are pushing towards pupils and students must be considered at all levels in a very careful way, so that we don't keep on changing. Like now you see, initially when we started the CBC, I could see they have reduced the number of subjects. So you can imagine our young children will be taken to through those many subjects, and now they are being reduced to 9 or 8.
Yes.
So to me, I think what really we need to do is now with this report, as a country, we need to see a very well-structured education system. And my concern for now is, many times we come up with a new curriculum and you find we don't prepare adequately. Like now, we know after I think by 2027, the first class will be now getting to the higher education, the ones who are in primary.
Yes.
So we want to see a situation whereby we start preparing early so that when they now start getting the university, we don't see what we have seen with now the junior primary. A situation whereby we knew our pupils will be moving from class 6 to class 7 as junior, which is now the start of the junior, and you find most schools have only one teacher. At the level
complained of
at the level of now secondary level, we don't have teachers who teach all the subjects like primary school. Primary school, the training is that you can teach every subject.
Yes.
At the secondary level, which is now the junior, you can only teach I think a maximum of 2 or 3.
2.
Now in a situation where you have one teacher teaching about 10 subjects, imagine a teacher teaching history, CRI, biology, chemistry. It just tells you. So to me, what I would be keen on is that with this report now, and important people like Sosiono have been in this sector for long, what we would want to see, like as Kenyans, is to see a situation where, in terms of preparedness, by the time you get to whatever level you get to, we are prepared in terms of infrastructure, in terms of software. Those are matters of teachers, matters of books, so that we don't get to a level where we don't have even the books.
That's why he talks about even the KCD coming up with the
to me, that's very important. So I'm just saying, let's now look at the implementation matrix, and I would really want to urge the government, the sector now, the education sector, through the CS, that now they start preparing so that we don't have another problem like we're having now, where we have no teachers and all these pupils are in class. That would be my concern, that now let's focus more on implementation so that we get it right at this stage. Yes.
Still on the front page of the People Daily, just to give it a summation, radical plans to reform schools. But also, there's that issue of capitation, which is coming out quite openly, that in view of the realities of CBC, this will be reviewed as follows. Number 1, pre-primary 1,170. In primary, 2,238. Junior school, 15,043. And senior school, that is day, will get 22,527. That is capitation. But generally, What is your point of this?
Special needs.
Sorry?
Special needs.
Special need has not been put here.
It is captured.
Maybe it missed from this paper, but we can take a look at that as well. But what's your general assessment of the capitation? Because when you even look at the high school, teachers complain that they're not supposed to send students back to home because of school fees, and now the capitation, the new review is here. Your take?
And I think education funding in Kenya, particularly tuition, is agreed it should be fully borne by government. That's a principle that's agreed. And when we were developing the education charter, we looked at the funding, and we agreed this must be revised. If we are talking about the delivery of quality education, look at early childhood. For 13 years since the constitution was implemented, there has been no capitation targeted at early childhood. But now you can see per child it is starting at 1,170. Yes. And this, the president said, must be implemented, and it shall be implemented. It's not a choice. Giving our children quality education is not an option. The more we enhance funding, then it means we offload the cost from household, and we deliver quality
at
the
per
school
child
level.
Or per household?
Per child.
Per child.
This is per child.
Right.
And then 2,238 in primary is actually an upward revision from the current 1,400, and then 15,043 in the junior school. So that they can be prepared properly for the pathways at the senior school, and 22,527 for senior school. And also there is enhanced funding for special need children, those in day and those in boarding, and it's fully funded by government. And also, in addition to that, there is what you call the minimum essential package, MEP. You see, there are schools that cannot function even if you pay the full capitation per learner because of low enrollment. So these schools with low enrollment will receive graduated minimum essential package from ECD, primary, secondary, and it is graduated differently. So the model of funding is supposed to completely eliminate the challenge of operations of schools. And this was negotiated. Remember the charter, we negotiated for 4 months with professionals before the president signed it as a document that would guide education once the president was elected. And now if you look at the education report, most of the recommendations are actually implementations of what is in the charter. So on funding, I think this is a big win for schools. It's a relief for households that at least ECD schools are getting funded for the first time, and there will be functional learning. And even when you look at ECD in terms of human resource, the Teacher Service Commission and county government will work on modalities on how to employ and remunerate those particular teachers. So completely, with this enhanced funding of capitation and properly defined ways of employing teachers at ECD, and even enhanced number of employment of teachers at the basic education level. Remember, as we are speaking now, it is getting to a new numbers of 55,000 employment of teachers. As a practitioner in the sector and a leader in the union, I think the highest number of teachers that were ever employed was 23,000 in 2011. That was the highest. But this one of 55,000, that was 2011, yes. But 55,000 now, it's a very high number. And look at this financial shift to the positive side during difficult economic times. I think this is a great step. Kenyans must appreciate, the household must appreciate, and now we'll need proper management of our schools so that we see value for this money reflected in the outcomes of teaching and learning in our learners.
I'll ask you this question, but before then, the Education Ministry will be getting a lot of, will gain more powers from TSC. TSC will be getting some small powers there. some will be transferred from TSC to the ministry. But Mheshimiwa Bakali, what is the legislative process here? Because now the capitation is here. The ministry must now adhere to the new proposal. The president says that it has to be implemented. That is close to his heart. And I'm just want to ask you, what do you think the late Professor Magoha is now feeling? I mean, he was so strong in implementing the CBC posthumously. Maybe
thank you very much. May he so rest in peace. I'm sure wherever he is,
he must be happy.
He must be smiling that at least we are getting things right. But maybe before I come to legislative agenda, let me just very quickly comment on the capitation.
Yes.
Because the issue of capitation is a very important issue in this country. It has really helped a lot of schools in terms of managing the schools. But majority of the principals are saying that with now the increasing prices of commodities and a lot of these other things, that the amount is not enough. There has also been a challenge of leakages. You know, as we do a lot of funding of education sector as members of parliament through the CDF, because we are patrons, and we have realized that despite the money getting to the schools also, at times you don't get as much as you would expect from this money, and we suspect there could be some leakages. So I would want to see a situation where also, despite just releasing the money to schools, there is a more rigorous monitoring of how the resources are being used, so that we get value for money. And then the last thing which I would want really to comment on is the issue of, you know, this capitation. There has been a bit of cheating also through the enrollment levels, where I remember at times you find the school heads and the principals would provide inflated numbers of students so as to get more money. And these are the things we are saying we need to monitor, so that despite us saying the money might not be enough, the money could be enough, but the way it is being used could be having challenges.
Yes.
Now, in terms of legislative agenda, normally what would happen is, once the government now adopt this report, they will be able to isolate what legislation needs to be, what new legislation needs to be put in place, what existing legislation needs to be reviewed or amended, and then based on that, they will be able to send their proposal to the House, either through the majority leader or through the Committee of Education. And on the basis of that, then once we get a hold of that, once Parliament becomes a custodian of those proposals, then it will get to the parliamentary calendar, where now we'll be able to debate and pass the laws. So the first thing is just to isolate what needs to be done by Parliament.
Yes.
And on the basis of that, come up with a calendar of how they want to push that agenda to our side.
All right.
I can assure you, when we get that agenda to Parliament, parliamentarians will always be ready to support this sector, because this sector is very important to all of us as a country. So in that case, I don't see Parliament having any challenges legislating once we get the proposals.
Let's take a break and we come back. I just want to ask this question: how are you going to separate the two, the divorce between CDF and the national government's support to the CBC now? Are you, as members of Parliament, still going to chip in, or you are going to mandate? Are you going to deliver all the mandate to the national government from CDF? How is it going to be?
Normally what happens, CDF only supplements national government efforts.
Yes.
The way we are structured is we can't implement county level functions. So whatever the national government is doing, our work is just to supplement. Through CDF boards, we supplement that. So that's why we need a very good working relationship between the ministry and the members of Parliament and the boards, so that we don't have duplication in terms of what we implement. But in most cases, you find most of the work now at the local level is being done by CDF.
All right.
It's actually CDF, national government, CDF, which is supporting most of the infrastructural development and other requirements of from the schools.
Let's take a break. It's now 7:31. Let's take a break. When you come back, Mheshimiwa Sossion, I just need to ask that question. The Ministry of Education said to gain more powers from TSC. I'd like you to respond to that when you come back after this break. Stay with us.
Tusiwe ni wenye kuhukumiana na tusiwe ni wenye kujaji wengine, yani kuambia tuwa encourage watu katika kufanya ibada na kuomba msamaha na kurudi katika nyumba za Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala.
Na vile vile pia mja anaweza kutekeleza vitendo vyema sana mpaka akawa karibu sana na janna, lakini akatenda kiovu kimoja ambacho kinampelekea kupata adhabu ya Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala na kuingia katika jahannam.
The 2022 general election in Kenya.
I, Susan Kihika, do hereby swear
7 women governors.
Tabitha Karanja Kiroche, having been elected a member of the Senate.
3 women in the Senate.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the people and the Republic of Kenya.
29 women in the National Assembly and 115 women in the county assemblies. For Nakuru County, it was a clean sweep. How did they beat the mythical odds? We answer this and more in our themed bulletin, Breaking Barriers, Women in Elective Politics in Kenya.
Welcome to the program, and thank you so much for staying with us. Mheshimiwa Sosion, the question I ask you is, the Ministry of Education is going to get more powers from TSC. What does it really portend to TSC?
No, those powers were unnecessarily taken away from the ministry. When TSC was made a constitutional commission, it assigned itself through the act mandates that are not in the constitution, that are unconstitutional. And we've had conflicts between the ministry and TSC to the extent that teachers receive conflicting instructions at schools. A meeting can be convened by the county director and then the county director ministry, and the county director TSC instruct teachers not to attend. That is how ugly and dirty it has been. And the functions of the Teacher Service Commission that had been taken from the ministry, like quality assurance, it reverts back to the Ministry of Education fully. And that is a global practice. Every State Department of Education all over the world has got an independent quality assurance or inspectorate section that is fully funded to quality assure schools or inspect schools. So it cannot be at the employer. So that mandate reverts to the minister. And I want to believe, because I've seen procurement of vehicles for all the sub-county quality assurance officers, so that the quality assurance personnel can work. I've seen the ministry is recruiting additional personnel to the quality assurance and standard department. And the report, the Presidential Work Party report, recommends that the quality assurance and standard at the ministry be strengthened. I think this is a welcome move. It's going to bring normalcy and is going to create an institution that is going to quality assure all aspects of education, from classroom teaching, from teacher preparations, from curriculum delivery, and even up to management of resources, the leakages we are talking about. Because you see, in the absence of quality assurance and standards operations, then we'll have a laissez-faire and wastage of all these resources that have been put at the ministry. So the safety net of the money that goes to the education sector is the quality assurance and standard. It must be at the Ministry of Education. It must also operate independently at the Ministry of Education, and generates independent, authentic reports that Kenyans can access. Number two, the teacher training and continuous capacity building. Teacher Service Commission had assigned itself that particular role, but that has been taken away from the Teacher Service Commission and domiciled fully at the Ministry of Education, because the ministry must supervise the training, the pre-service training of teachers at the teacher training colleges and universities, and also the in-service capacity building, and the establishment of Kenya School of Teaching, where these continuous capacity building programs will be undertaken and supervised by the Ministry of Education.
Was it so heavy for the TSC to handle?
Pardon?
Was it so heavy for the TSC to handle?
It was wrong for TSC to have it. You cannot be an employer, capacity builder. You can't do everything. So that matter, that role of continuous capacity building rests with the office that deals with the curriculum development. The curriculum development is under the Ministry of Education.
Yes.
And so the curriculum needs are better assessed by the ministry. And when the curriculum needs are assessed and gaps, then the training and retraining should be conducted by the Ministry of Education. And then the other regulatory functions like appeals, disciplinary appeals by teachers. It now shifts from TSC to the Education Appeals Tribunal, which is created by the Education Act. Then promotions and appointment of head teachers, it cannot be done alone by the Teacher Service Commission, because teachers are employees of Teacher Service Commission, but they are working for the Ministry of Education and programs of the ministry. So the ministry must have a say, and of course, traditionally, before the promulgation of the Constitution, the agent of TSC at the counties were actually the personnel of the Ministry of Education. So promotions of teachers shall be done in consultation with the Ministry of Education, which is a professional practice
done by the TSC.
The TSC took it away. In fact, what TSC did was to try and assign itself imperial powers that do not exist, and it became rogue. In fact, it has been a rogue entity that has caused a lot of disharmony in the sector, and probably TSC management needs to be revisited further beyond this report, so that there is complete, total harmony in education sector. So ideally speaking, TSC will remain with the human resource functions of employing teachers, promoting teachers, deploying teachers, paying salaries, and there's a lot of work to be done that needs to be upscaled within the human resource entity, and that is actually the role of TSC. So it cannot try to usurp functions of other entities, but it should concern itself with its primary business as an employer in terms of human resource core function of employing, paying salaries, promoting, deploying, transferring. Those are the major business of TSC. But, and once that separation of roles and clarity of roles is defined, then we'll have a more harmonized and orderly education sector with no conflict.
I hear you, sir. Thank you. But Mheshimiwa Makali, based on what Mheshimiwa Sosioni is talking about, what's your take?
For me, as I said earlier, you know, Sosioni has been in this sector for many, many years.
Yes, so he has A to Z about it.
So when he talks from a position of experience. But I just want to make I really like the idea of streamlining so that the roles are very clear. Because for example, where I come from, that is Kitui Central. We have had some challenges. A teacher is posted to a secondary school. You can see this teacher is killing the school in terms of management, to a level that students are leaving the school because of poor management. You want this teacher transferred, you talk to the county director of education, and he tells you his or her hands are tied, you must go to the TSC. You go to the TSC, they are playing their games, they don't want to transfer the teacher. You want to bring the director of TSC and the county director of education to a round table to discuss the matter. They don't see eye to eye. So to me, I think this idea of streamlining the roles, I like it very much, and it's something I would want to support, so that we have a clear policy whereby if it's a matter of management of schools and we see a teacher is not performing as per expectation, then you can easily, the county director of education can actually give instructions or TSC, whichever way it is being done.
Because that's a distinct role.
Yeah, because it's a distinct role, so that the teachers, but there's a lot of confusion. Even getting a teacher out of our school, and you can see there are problems. You find up to a level, at times as politicians, we tend to be forced by circumstances, even to start now inciting the parents to close the school or effect their teacher. So what Susan is saying makes a lot of sense. Let's have a system whereby each role is clearly defined and the person responsible for that role is, so that TSC play on their side, and then the ministry plays on their side, but at the same time then ensure that then they have synergies in terms of they are working as a team for purposes of pushing the education sector forward. This is an area I really want to support so that we get it clear. It will help our schools and also help management.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because when you look at, one of the recommendations is about the infrastructure.
Yes.
That the report also recommends, even for the Ministry of Education, that in 2 years they should renovate the existing structures, or if possible, build more infrastructure, because that is where the missing link is.
Yes.
When you talk about infrastructure, we talk about schools, we talk about computers, well-equipped.
Classrooms and
all that.
Yes, yes.
I'm looking at a situation where this might actually derail or slow the pace of implementation.
Yes.
What do you make of that?
No, this is what we were saying earlier. You know, like now, like what I was saying with the CBC. You know very clearly you require some classrooms, and then you just sit and wait till the students are in school. There are no classrooms. But one thing we must really say, NGCDF has really helped. Actually, most of the renovation, most of the new classrooms all over the country been done through NGCDF. And that's what we are saying. If there is a very well structured way of implementing together with the ministry, CDF and ministry, we can actually achieve some of these things. But you know, the other thing has also been the challenge of financing. You know, we do allocate money for infrastructural development every year, and there's been an issue of equity, the way the money is being shared across the country.
Yes.
You find that even though the money is budgeted for, at times there is skewness in terms of the way the money is being used, and that's what we are saying now. We need a situation whereby, based on the need, you know, if you analyze the country and you go to most of the counties and the sub-counties, you realize some sub-counties are so much disadvantaged as compared to others.
Yes.
I will give you a very simple example. Like now, if you look at the teachers who have been posted to some counties, if you look at the analysis, you find counties like Kitui, counties like Kagameka, counties like the northern counties, they have huge shortages of teachers. And you realize even when teachers have been employed, they are not likely to get the proportionate share in terms of the shortage as opposed to the recruitment.
Yes.
This is what we are saying. As a country, we need to make sure that, because a pupil studying in Garissa will do the same exam with the people studying in Nairobi. So as a country, we must make efforts to make sure that in terms of infrastructural development, in terms of teacher postings, there's a bit of equity, even if not really, they are not equal, but a bit of equity, a share of equity, so that there is a proportionate sharing of the resources which are available, so that we don't have disadvantage some of the students and pupils in this country. So to me, really, the issue of infrastructure development, we need to see more resources being pumped to the ministry, and then the ministry must be seen to be sharing these resources fairly, so that all the parts of this country are developed, and not some parts having all the facilities and other parts having almost 10% of the required facilities.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The question I wanted to ask you then, don't you think it's going to be some silent war between TSC and the Ministry of Education? And is TSC well equipped to undertake the processes or the mandate given now solely, now that distinction of roles?
Now, before I answer that, there was a matter raised by, which I think is important, by Makali Mulu. If a school has been run down, what is the procedure of giving it the correct professional treatment? The quality assurance and standards of the ministry shall conduct an assessment of the school. And if it recommends that administrative change be caused in the school, so it shall be done. It will not be an option. And so with this recommendation of clear roles now, then there will be no issue of using parents to evict anybody. The reports alone will cause that change. And even as unionist, and as a unionist, whenever we note such things, we would always recommend transfer or change of administration. So I think this is now sorted out. And then number two, in terms of infrastructure, which you've talked about,
yes.
Of course, we'll need quality infrastructure to deliver quality education. We'll need quality teaching and learning tools. We've seen the innovation of children using sacks and using improvised brooms from branches to do some work, teaching and learning. Of course, that is a poor state of using poor, low-quality teaching and learning tools. And of course, we need quality teachers. Those are three variables to deliver quality education. And the CDF has done a lot to overhaul the infrastructure. Your statement on improving infrastructure in the next 2 years cannot go without support. And probably the more CDF needs to be channeled, particularly to renovate classrooms, to be decent, and to put up new classrooms where they are needed. And if need be, more funding to CDF by the national government can be enhanced. Because through the supervision of members of parliament, and you know, most of the classrooms that we are getting right across the country are from CDF. And since CDF was started in 2013, it has done a lot in advancing the quality of infrastructure in schools. So this report is not going to succeed without the support of members of parliament and without the support of CDF. So I'm appealing to members of parliament through Macaulay Muli and all of them, wherever they are, to also support this particular report and support particularly mounting of quality learning infrastructure and quality learning tools. Let us not allow our children to conduct their learning using poor tools, poor learning tools. Let them have decent quality teaching and learning tools and quality learning environment. And I believe that is what the interaction between capitation and the interaction between capitation through the students, the CDF money, and other alternative funding, even from county government. Nothing stops the county government from also participating in building of classrooms. So all these funds should interact to give us quality schools and to give us quality outcomes.
Members of parliament have a lot of work to do.
Education. No, of course, the CDF majorly is for education. That Macaulay can tell you. So that means members of parliament now have a lot of role, a lot of work to do in education. And I'm advocating that the Treasury allocates more money to CDF so that this work is done. Yes. It is a collective venture. Education is a collective venture. It cannot be done in isolation by the ministry or by TSC or by the boards of management. It's collective, including even county government. And then your question on efficiency of TSC, whether it's going to get weak. I don't think we are here to promote egoism of institutions. The institutions belong to the people of Kenya, and they must be accountable in the services to the people of Kenya. And these recommendations have been made by the people of Kenya through the Presidential Working Party. So if the people of Kenya have recommended a manner in which these entities should relate, and of course, the Teacher Service Commission is not an institution above the Ministry of Education. It cannot be. No, it is not. The ministry is a parent organ leading education. Of course, with the leader as a minister. That is a common order everywhere in the Commonwealth and the world over. So I think we are correcting what was created wrongly after the 2010 Constitution by TSC assigning itself unnecessary power. So it has to be recalibrated back to what it has to do to ensure that it delivers efficient human resource services to the teacher. That's the business of TSC. And then the ministry superintends the programs, implementation of curriculum, supervision of curriculum, as is required, together with the existing SAGAs, the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. All what we need is harmony. It is what is important to deliver education is what we call unity. You know, in education, there is no division. That is an entity which unites all households in Kenya.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is where there are no politics, there is no opposition or government.
Yeah.
All the children from all the households converge in schools.
Yes.
And it behoves, and it is moral, that everybody gives the best, because that is the home of our children during the day.
Thank you, sir.
And our children must be happy during the day. And so the interacting, the entities, all the entities within the education sector must work seamlessly in harmony and without undermining each other. You know, if we got to a point where the chief executive of the Teacher Service Commission feels that is above the minister and cannot even pick the phone calls of the minister. Now, you can imagine the kind of upsetting of... you can imagine the kind of upsetting of the chain of command in the sector. And that is very dangerous. Yeah, and I'm happy
I'll come back.
This has been corrected diplomatically and professionally.
That's the
in
question
this
I
report.
asked, where there's going to be a silent tiff between TSC and...
There will be no war, because the report here has been generated by a task force that brings together all the institutions. This has been adopted and it is supervised by the president.
Thank you.
The president is not going to supervise.
And he said he's going
a government entity the president is not going to lead a government that is fighting within itself. That is not the intention of government. Government cannot fight with itself.
It can't. Let me ask you this question, because it's very important. The university funding, the colleges, and some of the courses that the recommendation has in the report, you know, the certificate and diploma courses now will not be taught in universities. That the current diplomas and certificates should be done in a span of 2 to 3 years, and then now it reverts back to colleges, because this, they realized, was weakening colleges. All right? But then, Mheshimiwa Makali, what's your take on what Mheshimiwa Sossion is saying? I ask a question, and from the look of things, you must be having a lot of work right now in the next phase of 2 years to implement CDF. I mean, all your energies as members of parliament are going to be focused
in schools.
Exactly, on improving schools, infrastructure, in collaboration with the national government and the county government.
No, I totally agree. Actually, if you look at the way we use the CDF money, the national government CDF money, almost 70% of that funding goes to education sector. So it's just like another extension of the Ministry of Education in terms of the way the resources are being used. And it is obvious that there are two ways we are saying it. We have our allocation, which comes through the Ministry of Planning, to CDF, and that keeps on increasing every year because it's a percentage of the national revenue collection. But we are also saying, because this model, the CDF model of implementation, has proved to be very effective in this country, we would also want to see a situation where then the ministry could be channeling some of the money allocated to the ministry through CDF, so that we use the same model for implementation. Yes. It is very effective in terms of cost efficiency. It is very effective in terms of time. We take very little time to implement, a very short time to implement. It's also very effective in terms of administrative expenses. You spend very little in terms of, if you look at the whole of the CDF fund, it's only 6% which goes to administrative issues. The rest goes to programs and projects. But then, so we are saying basically, if as a country we committed ourselves to providing this infrastructure and we provide additional resources, we should be able to implement. For example, this year now, the education sector alone has taken about 628 billion out of the budget. It was there, it's about 25% of the budget went to education sector. 29%. So, just quite a huge percent. So we are saying, if now we improved that amount, and more so, a lot of the money goes to the current, but push more of the money to the development, then we'll be helping the country in terms of getting this quality infrastructure for quality education. We'll be able to get that. But from your question about the diploma and the universities, you know, the thing is, I think it was a mistake for us to make our middle level colleges to become universities. Because what we did, we killed all of them and made them campuses of universities. By doing so, we actually killed the middle level skills where we would want in this country.
Yes.
So if you look at the diploma now, university started offering diplomas, university started offering certificates. It is a shame to see our whole university during our graduation day calling people to receive certificates as part of the graduation. To me, these are things you can do at what you are saying at the middle level colleges, the TTIs, the teachers colleges, so that we have a mass of, because even I think from a human resource perspective, if you have an engineer can be served by about 2 or 3 diploma level people, but you can't have 3 engineers serving the same position. So we need a structure which is, as you move from the top, you go down getting more people. But we killed that middle level. So to me, the proposal to have all our diplomas and the certificates being offered at the middle level colleges is a very good proposal, and we need to implement it immediately.
And actually, even some of the report, Mheshimiwa Makali, is that some of the colleges did not even receive even a single, no student actually applied to attend to any of these schools. Some of these colleges. Mheshimiwa Session, do you think that's now the right way to go? Because universities now are going to be decongested, and some of these middle-level colleges are going to be, like for example, TVETs, and call them diploma and certificate courses are now going to get market.
There's been confusion in tertiary institutions,
right,
and poor funding models. And in fact, the biggest threat to education is not even CBC at the basic level. It is proper order at the tertiary level. We killed the mid-level institutions by engaging in quick decisions of elevating mid-level institutions to universities. And I think the recommendation now that all the certificates and diplomas be exited from universities is a wise thing, so that it can be offered at the mid-level entities and TVET institutions, so that universities can concentrate on its core mandate of offering degree programs, focus on engaging in research, quality research. In fact, this is where we've lost. The research programs in the universities has gone down, and funding for research has also gone down. And also the third mandate is community development.
Right.
So the university should concentrate on its core mandate. And if you look at the funding model that has been adopted for universities, it is going to ensure that scholarships cover the poorest households through the testing system that HELP will be able to use to map out, and it's going to cover about 45,000 students. You've seen what COOPS has done, and but by and large, the funding of universities will move up from the current 54 billion to 84 billion. And talking to a number of vice chancellors who have seen the admission of their students, they are satisfied that with the capitation and with the funding, they will now be able to operate and function. That is the most immediate indicator. And actually this change in the funding model is in the education charter. Now then you come down to TVETs. The TVETs must deliver. It must give us the skilled manpower
they have the platform
that we require. And the TVET's presence must be present in every constituency in the country. Because when you look at the admission of students through COOPS, those who have been admitted are only around 285,000 out of 800,000. So where are the 600,000? And I think this is a big discussion we should be discussing. This number of students who are unaccounted for should be accounted for. These are the students who are expected to take the certificate and diploma courses. And when you put these certificates and diploma courses in the universities, they'll become hard to reach. But if these diploma and certificate courses are available at mid-level training colleges like TVETs, which can be available in every constituency, and every constituency, then it will be possible to mount these particular courses for this cohort of students of around 600,000.
Yeah.
And in conclusion, we've talked of transition, 100% transition from primary
secondary
to secondary.
Right.
We've talked of non-repetition of learners. Repeating learners is not a professional practice. Learners should progress and they should be taught effectively so that they have capacity to move to the next level.
All right.
We are not talking about transition from Form 4 to tertiary. Transition from Form 4 to tertiary should be at 100%. Because when we look at a candidature of 800,000, that is potential human capital that we can skill and tool to fit in any economy, locally and externally. And one of the key agendas of Kenya Kwanza is to export our human resource to the diaspora. Diaspora is one of our main focus. We cannot do it when we have these huge 600,000 unaccounted for and planned for.
Thank you.
And therefore, these courses must be taken out of universities. We allow the mid-level colleges to thrive, to give us the skills that the universities cannot give us.
Okay, thank you.
The universities cannot give us the skills at the diploma and certificate level effectively as it would. So I think there is now order at the tertiary level, and this is where I invite now members of parliament and all of us that now.
I need to go. I need to go. And let Mheshimiwa Makali to go somewhere as well. Mheshimiwa Makali, just to respond on that as well, I don't know, do you have any TVET in your constituency? If not, are you planning to have one or two now that you have an opportunity as you respond?
Actually, we have upgraded one of our polytechnics to a TTI.
Great.
We are now doing the infrastructure, and I can tell you this is the way to go. I've also committed myself as a leader in the area to support students who will go to that TTI, so that we're using CDF resources, we'll be able to pay part of their fees to the tuition, so that we have many more joining. But that is the way to go if you really want to grow this economy. TVET is the way to go, and if you go even to developed countries like German, that's how they have developed, by making sure that they support TVETs, and in that way then you have a very huge human resource group which you can use. And but to me, the funding model which is not been proposed is a good model. It's good to come out very well in terms of targeting the right student in terms of funding. But there's something which Sosiona has mentioned, and which I think really this will be by now take away. The issue of wastage. Our education system is coming up with a lot of wastage, and that's why you see, like Sosiona is saying, I wish we would get a situation where we transition everybody from Form 4 100% either to tertiary or universities. But now when you look at the figures which were projected yesterday on our screens, very many students are just disappearing after Form 4. You don't know where they will go. I think that's something we need to focus on, and I wish I would want to look at the report to see whether they have taken care of that, so that we don't have students who are just after Form 4, they disappear, we don't know where they go. And to make things worse, it appeared like there were more than 50%.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Makali Mulu, Member of Parliament, Kitui Central, Wilson Sossion, former NAT Secretary General and CAS. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for showing up. But Director is on the floor. I don't want to be given a right act to be given a written explanation why going past my allocated time. I'm a timekeeper. Thank you so much.
Tell the Director to expand space of discussion and more serious
we'll need a written explanation to that.
And the President is leading by demanding written explanation.
Thank you for joining us. All right. Thank you for
thank you very much. Thank you, Lord.
All right.
We appreciate.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
koti?
Tulimuona vizuri na hata nilimuona nikahakikisha nimemwona kwa sababu akiongea kuna jino haikuwa ni yeye, ni huyo hapa. Alisema anaitwa Dr. Makoha.
What? Msichana sema ukweli ndio uachiliwe.
Hata hizi ziko huko kando zimengoka ndio hizo.
What do you mean? Ushaikuwa nini kulipishana pesa hapo hivyo kwa kadi?
Aje sasa kwani ni makanga?
Na uwezi kuwa makanga, si ndio? Very good. So ni kielelekani umeleta hapa kwa hiyo.
Ati kielele? Chunga maneno yako.
Sasa unajua hii mambo yote hawa watu wananiwekelea mheshimiwa. Manake sijawahi fanya kitu kama hii mheshimiwa. How shall you close me? How shall you?
Close, are you a door to be closed or a boot?
By the way. Lakini mheshimiwa ungeniangalia tu hapo.
Hebu toka tukamzee.
이중곤이는 사람에 대한 의심이 많아서 당신 같은 사람 만날 때 몸에 항상 몰카를 소지해. 안경, 시계, 단추 있다는 걸로. 보험두기 딱 좋으니까. 근데 그날은 단추에 몰카를 설치했더라고.
회장님!
웬 쇼를 하는구만, 강 부장,
The 2022 general election in Kenya.
I, Susan Kihika, do hereby swear.
7 women governors.
Tabitha Karanja Kiroche, having been elected a member of the Senate.
3 women in the Senate.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the people and the Republic of Kenya.
29 women in the National Assembly. And 115 women in the county assemblies. For Nakuru County, it was a clean sweep. How did they beat the mythical odds? We answer this and more in our themed bulletin. Breaking Barriers, Women in Elective Politics in Kenya.
Tusiwe ni wenye kuhukumiana na tusiwe ni wenye kujaji wengine, yani kuambia tuwa encourage watu katika kufanya ibada na kuomba msamaha na kurudi katika nyumba za Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala.
Na vile vile pia mja anaweza kutekeleza vitendo vyema sana mpaka akawa karibu sana na janna, lakini akatenda kiovu kimoja ambacho kinampelekea kupata adhabu ya Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala na kuingia katika jahannam.
Welcome to the program. We continue with this show right on Good Morning Kenya. I'm seeing lots of comments. T. Doreen is saying, watching us from Kitale already, joining in the team. I can see there Ndong Kevo is watching us live from Hurlingham, Nairobi. Thank you so much for being a part of this show. We continue with this morning broadcast right here. Good Morning Kenya is the place to be each and every morning. My name is Ram Aguko, if you've just joined us. And now we shift gears into matters concerning investing in higher education abroad. Have you ever wondered, what does it take for me to go study outside the country? Have you ever thought about taking your further studies abroad? Well, this conversation is for you. My guest is somebody many of us know. If you haven't known him yet, well, today you are going to meet him for the very first time. He goes by the name Bob Mwiti. He is the director of Kenya Airlift Program. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
And thank you so much for coming. Those who have not heard of Bob, I know there are those who have been following him on social media. You have fans even here in studio. I don't know if you've met my brother there.
Yes, I have.
Taking the picture there.
Mogaka, yes.
Mogaka. He's a loyal fan.
Yes.
Bob, tell us something a bit more about, for those who are interacting with you for the first time, about Kenya Airlift Program and what it's all about.
All right. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here and talk to Kenyans. My name is Bob Mwiti. I live and work in the US. I've been there for the last 14 years. So I went there as a student.
As a student?
As a master's student in 2009. Yeah, and I do the managing director of an initiative called the Kenya Airlift Program. And basically what we do is we help mostly bright Kenyan students to pursue graduate studies abroad. We facilitate their finances because that process of going and studying abroad is quite expensive.
Yes.
And we help that. And of course also we do career support because also when you go and to study abroad, you have to figure out how do you get jobs, you know, things like those. And also even if you come back to Kenya, how do you get back and be able to get into the job market? So we help with career support as well. So that's really what we do in a nutshell.
All right, all right. And for those who do not know him, maybe can engage with him. How can someone find you on online, on social media, if they want to get a hold of you?
I'm quite active on social media. My social media handles on Facebook, it's Bob Mwiti, Instagram, Bob Mwiti. I think I'm on Twitter, Bob Mwiti. TikTok, niko huko, my team has opened an account for me, but sijaingia huko.
Are you dancing there?
Nasikia kuna vituko sana huko.
Kuna vituko sana huko. We want to do so many things. Yes. But that is social media for you.
Yes.
But now let's talk about this elephant in the room. There are many who have desired to study abroad.
Yes.
And I know this conversation is going to touch somebody today. But now, many are still skeptical. Yes, there are those who desire to study abroad, but there are those who are skeptical about it. Is studying abroad an investment that Kenyans should consider if they're able to?
I know studying abroad is very challenging. I think a lot of people out there, they actually don't really know how to go about it. And it's quite costly. If you really want to go there and you come from a typical, Kenyan family,
yes.
It can be very challenging because typically, for example, I went to study my master's, and especially for the US, for a master's program, you probably need about close to 5 million Kenya shillings to study.
5 million?
Yeah. 5 million Kenya shillings for the 2 years as a master's student.
And is that a maximum limit or just the bare minimum?
Averagely. It also depends with what kind of program are you going to study. You know, there are some programs that are quite expensive. Maybe a program like medicine would cost even more than that. But generally, around 5 million.
So somebody this morning should just say, I can just give up on this. They just give up. Do we give up on our dreams now? 5 million shillings.
5 million shillings.
Kind of money?
Yeah, but you actually don't need to give up because there is options. You know, there is ways that you can be able to raise that kind of money. So key thing when you think of going and studying abroad is, whatever, because this is an investment. Yeah? Yes. If you're talking of 5 million, if I put in 5 million, what do I get after that, you know? Are there opportunities there? Maybe once you go there and get your degree, is it marketable enough for you to be able to recoup what you really invested in it? And not just necessarily on the other side, even back home, because actually we actually need these guys who are going there, especially those who, because like for us, we normally deal with those who want to go and do technology-related master's program. We need these skills back home because this is where really those skills are needed. So you also have to ask yourself, like when I come back home now, will I be able to recoup the 5 million or whatever I've spent going and studying abroad? So those are some of the questions that you have to ask yourself as a student. And think of, if you don't have the 5 million, you think of ways of that where you can be able to raise that 5 million, and there's ways to do that actually.
Now, in the world of today, we live in an era where there is a lot of conmanship.
Yes.
A lot of people getting duped. You desire to study online and you do not know the way to follow, the procedure, not to study online, abroad, sorry. You desire to study abroad, but you don't know the procedure that can enable you to do that in a manner that is safe, in a manner that doesn't infringe on your security and doesn't get you duped or conned. In a way, you end up losing a lot of money. Give me this procedure
that is there, that Kenyans should follow? And is it the same that you used during your time when you went there?
In my case, when I went there, actually, for me, it was more or less like try and error. I really didn't know exactly what I needed to do. One, if you're going, let's say, for example, you're going as a master's student like I went, one of the most schools out there, they will require you to do some exams. For me, I did an exam called GMAT, Graduate Management Admissions Test. It's an exam that tests your IQ levels. I could test Kizungu na mathematics.
Is it a physical exam?
Yeah, it's a physical. There's usually centers where you can take the exam physically. There's one center here in Nairobi, on where? Westlands. In Westlands, there's GMAT. That's for those students who want to do graduate studies that are related to business. And if you're doing something that is science related, you do an exam called GRE. So you have to figure out, how do you now sit for those exams, how much it costs, because it's not free. GMAT costs $250. So that's about what, 30,000? Yeah, around that.
Somebody take the calculator, calculate $250, and that is by then during your time.
Even now. I think it was like 200. Now it's 250.
Now it's 250.
Yeah, and I think GRE is around 2 something. Yeah.
Oh, so exams are a must.
It depends also with the school. There are some schools that require you to do those exams. There are other schools that waive them.
Yes.
So it all depends. Which school do you want to go? How do you figure out? Because like for me, I didn't know. I was just going on the internet, and those days even the internet was not that great. So I'd go and search for schools. You have to figure out how much they cost, whether you can afford that school or not. Because even for you to be able to travel and get the visa, actually you have to show that you have funding for the first 1 year of your studies.
Hold on. You've gone so fast. Let me take you a few steps behind. Let's rewind. Let's go back. The very first step for me as a parent to get my child to study abroad, or for me as a student to go study abroad, what is it? The first step?
Well, the first step is basically to figure out what you are going to study.
What you're going to study.
Yeah. Are you going for a master's, or are you going for undergrad, and which course?
And where do you get the universities that offer these particular courses?
Yes, so you want to study this program. Now, which universities are out there that actually are able to give you what you really want? Yes, so you have to look for those universities. There's quite a number of them, especially for the US. Actually, US has thousands and thousands of universities. So, but it can also be very challenging because you don't know which one is which, because there's so many, so many options. And that's why
you haven't even heard of.
You've never heard of them. You're just Googling. You don't know whether, some of them, whether they are real or not. So that's also where maybe you need someone who is an expert, who can be able to guide you through on which universities, which course. Because sometimes also, remember, at that age when you're going to study abroad, you are maybe in your early 20s, right? And sometimes also you've not even figured out what exactly you want. And that's also when you really need someone who is an expert, who should be able to guide you on your career, which programs to take. And another thing that you also need to worry about is, because when you go to the other side, there's usually something you are given, which is a work authorization after you are done with school. And depending with the course that you do, your work authorization can be for 1 year or can be for 3 years. And a lot of people don't know that. Like, for example, I went to do an MBA. MBA gave me 1 year of work authorization. But actually, there is some courses out there that would give you up to 3 years of work authorization, which is a big deal. Because when you go on the other side as a student, you have to figure out how, if you really want to live and work there, you have to figure out how do you transition from being on a student visa. And that work authorization gives you enough time to be able to figure things out. Now, you asked about how do you maybe find out, who can be able to support you in this whole process. I think there's a lot of agencies out there, even here in Kenya, that help, Kenyans to go and study abroad. But also,
remember, we are avoiding conmen.
So that's the problem. Yes. So I think you have to do your due diligence. Check out, maybe are they even certified by
How can I know that these is the right person to help me and they won't dupe me of my money?
I think it's more to do with your doing more research, especially now we have the internet. You have internet, and everybody is able to access the internet. You can be able to figure these things out. You can do your due diligence. Go on YouTube, go on Google, check out these agencies, check out what they've done, some of the beneficiaries they've been able to take abroad, and maybe that should give you a clue of whether they are genuine people or not. Because sometimes if you call them, they'll just tell you good, nice things, but they may end up not being able, being the right people for you to help you go abroad as a student.
So, get to know the course you want to do. Get to know the university you want to do it at.
Yes.
Get a good agent.
Yes.
Or agent.
And now, start the process now. Apply one. Once you start for the exam, make sure that you know what the school requires in terms of the score. Because, for example, an exam like GMAT, the score is between 200 and 800. 800 as the maximum. Most schools out there, really good state universities, will require you to score at least a 500. So if you don't really even know what score you're supposed to get for the school that you are going, you're going to go apply to the school, and actually even applying to the school costs money. You apply to the school and then the school rejects you. So you might find you've spent like 10,000 Kenya shillings just applying to a school with a very low score of your GMAT, and you end up not getting to that school. So the good thing with having someone who is guiding you through the process, an expert, is because they'll know this school requires this type of score and for this program, and in as much as you are going to study for that course, for that exam, let's say GMAT or GRE, make sure that you are getting at least the minimum that is required by the school.
Now Miti, I'm looking at what we have in the country. We know right now there's a conversation about the education sector in Kenya.
Yes.
Now, when somebody chooses a school, it could be primary, high school, or the tertiary level, they always select based on what is considered to be the best school. If I want to do a course in medicine, in Kenya we know that there are those who prefer certain universities.
Yes.
If I want to do journalism, you prefer certain universities because we consider those universities to be the best in that particular course.
Correct.
Does it apply also for schools in the US?
Well, not really. What matters is, you see, let's say, for example, you're going as a master's student like I went.
Yes.
I went to a school called Indiana University of Pennsylvania. It's a state university located in the state of Pennsylvania. And if you rank it with other universities in the US, it comes to around almost 2,000. Number 2,000 in the US. But it's a good state university.
It's a good university.
It's a good university, but the ranking is like 2,000 something.
Wow.
Yeah. But you see, when it comes to getting jobs, most of the time what the employers out there are looking for is, do you have the skills or not? Not necessarily you went
where you went you studied at.
No. You can find I've seen people who went to Yale, Harvard, struggling actually getting jobs, but not to say that those are bad schools. Of course, the name, if you went to Harvard, so but generally what I can advise anybody who is out there and they really want to go and study, especially those who want to go and study in the US, because that's really where I've lived and that's why I went to school, just look for state universities. Those are usually good. They have a good name. Hata ukisikia shule atijui iko na ranking ya 5,000. US kuna universities, I think, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 or 10.
Chukua hiyo shule bwana.
Chukua. As long as it's a good state university, chukua hiyo and you'll get your degree and you should be able to get a job.
Mchagua jembe si mkulima.
Mchagua jembe si mkulima, yes, as they say.
If you have any questions, I invite you and I welcome you to be part of this conversation. All right? The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya at Ramba Guko and at KBC Channel 1. Keep engaging with us. Ask those questions. Do you want to invest in higher education abroad? Now, Mwite, you mentioned the process, and that's okay. Now, what are those common mistakes people make when they are applying for these student visas and getting to these universities? These mistakes that you've managed to come across in this particular area.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of mistakes that a lot of our students make. One of them is the issue of funding, which is a big problem. I think it's the elephant in the room when it comes to studying abroad. Remember we talked about the 5 million. So where do you get that 5 million?
Yes.
So what I've seen a lot of people do is that they usually go approach somebody. Let's say, for example, like you. I come to you and say, maybe you're my uncle or I know you. I ask, do you have maybe bank statement that can help me so that I can be able to present to the school to show that I can be able to support my education?
Wrong move?
Wrong move. Really wrong move, because even if you get a bank statement, let's say, for example, you've gotten a bank statement of 5 million, you presented it to the school gives you the approval and gives you the immigration document to take to the embassy for the visa, and then you go to the embassy and present the same document saying, hey, my uncle is supporting me, and yet, all you have is basically the document, but
the money itself,
the money is not there.
You will suffer.
And the mistake that people make is to assume that you will go on the other side and you'll be able to figure out where to get that money. A lot of people think once you go abroad, you'll be able to work and pay for your school fees. Now, what people don't realize is that you are only, especially in the US, you're only allowed to work 20 hours a week. That basically means you're working part-time. And you're only allowed to work on campus.
So for students, 20 hours.
20 hours
a day.
A week.
A week.
A week.
So did I say a day?
You said a day.
A week.
So that's 4 hours a day if you're working for 5 days. If you're working 7 days, you can do the math. But 20 hours a week.
A week.
Yeah, that's part-time. And another thing, because I've told you, you're only allowed to work on campus.
Yes.
So most of the jobs that you can be able to find on campus, they are not really well-paying jobs. They pay you minimum. They are limited and they pay you very little. You get paid like minimum wage. Now, for example, I live in the state of Florida. I think our minimum wage right now is around 8 or 9. I'm not very sure. Minimum wage. And so if you're getting paid, let's say, for example, $8 an hour, and you've worked for 20 hours, that's $160 a week. Now, imagine wewe ulipatiana bank statement hapa, ukaenda huko, so school fees inakungoja ya how many? Ya 5 million in 2 years. Let's say, for example, now 5 million is 2.5 per year. So, uko na school fees ya 2.5 per year, yenye unafaa ulipe, na una hiyo pesa because ulipatiana bank statement. So, where will you get the money? So, what happens is, most of the time, unaona mtu ameenda, ana school fees, the moment sasa amefika huko, na hawezi fanya job, because umesikia ana earn $160 in a week 160 in a month, hata ufikishi pesa mingi. How will you be able to sort your school fees and living expenses? Accommodation in America as a student, if you take a shared accommodation, let's say, for example, a 4-bedroom apartment, mko na student wengine hapo, mna share bathroom, mna share kitchen, you'll pay around $500-600 on a monthly basis as your rent. Hiyo pesa itatoka wapi? Na bado ni hapa tu unafanya kazi na una school fees. So that's why you find a lot of our students wanaenda huko wanakwama, and the moment you don't attend classes, you are basically out of status, which means you are in the US illegally. You are given 5-year visa, but actually when you go on the other side, having a visa means nothing. Kama actually uko shule, you need to be in school and taking at least the minimum required units.
What?
Yes, as a student. Otherwise, even if you take the units, maybe some of them you drop because you don't have enough money, because normally school fees is paid per unit. Yenye unachukua. Si kama hapa unaambiwa, this semester you are doing 7. Hapana, uko, ni units ngapi unataka kufanya wewe mwenyewe as a student. At a minimum you should take 3, at a maximum 5. So the bare minimum is 3. Na hiyo minimum 3 unachajua per unit, so unaona maybe mngependa kufanya hata moja because hauna pesa. But you can't do one, because the moment you go below the 3 units, you are basically an illegal immigrant.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Unaenda ngambo unakwama. So that's because really one of you made a mistake of getting a bank statement of
bank
of
statement. Yeah. Umechukua bank statement, umepresent, umeenda.
Mwiti, help me understand. If I want to study abroad, they need a bank statement that has some good money. What should I do then?
Well, there's options there, and actually that's also even where we come as a Kenya Life program. We finance that process. In fact, actually, for the Kenya Life program, we finance the relocation, tuition, and living expenses. Now, for the relocation, you see, in as much as you might get the funding on the other side, let's say you had to umepata a scholarship. If you've gotten the scholarship on the other side, your process to move from Kenya and land in the US actually requires money. Because you need money for the air tickets, you need money for the exams that you've talked about, you need money for the visa fees, there is money for something called service fee, you may need to do some, what do you call it, medical, you know, and it costs money. And so, as the Kenya Lift program, we facilitate that relocation process for the students who come through the program. And of course, the tuition fees, we also finance that through a combination of unsecured international student loans and also some waivers that we get from the universities that we work with. We have partnerships with the universities in the US. And that's how you are able to now to pay for your school fees and also living expenses. Because I told you living expenses also is a big challenge for our students.
All right, let's get to matters concerning employment. I'm seeing time is really moving fast through this morning. Employment.
Yeah.
So I want to stay in the US. I have managed to move from Kenya. I've moved to the US because of my master's program.
Yes.
Now, I want to extend my stay and continue living in the US as I work. Is that a possibility? Is it an option?
Yes, it is. So when you go to the US as a student, the US government actually gives you an opportunity to look for jobs once you are done with school. I earlier said that there is a work authorization you are given of 1 year up to 3 years, depending with the course that you do. Yes. There are courses that are usually called STEM courses. A course that is designated as a STEM basically means that course is a science, technology, engineering, and or mathematics program.
Yes.
That kind of program will give you up to 3 years of post-graduation work authorization, which is a big deal because that gives you enough time to figure out if you really, because of course a lot of our people, they want to go there, take the opportunity that are there and maybe work a little bit and then come back. So you find if you get 3 years of post-graduation work authorization, that gives you enough time to figure out now how to live there long term. Now, the key thing here is when you graduate from school as a student, the first 2 months, the first 60 days of your graduation, you must find somewhere where you can work.
Wait.
Where you can do something.
Are you saying that the student visa I acquired doesn't end there, doesn't expire? Because there are those that, you know, say that after you're done, after you've graduated, come back to your home country and then find other ways of going back abroad.
It doesn't.
You can extend it.
It doesn't expire immediately. You are done with school because a master's program will actually take you around 18 months. But actually, when you leave Kenya, you're given a visa of 5 years. 5 years.
So categorically, we're talking about the US, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not confuse things.
Yeah, we are talking about the US here because I also like talking about the US mostly because that's really where I've been and that's where I went as a student.
So they give you 5 years.
They give you the visa for 5 years.
So the student visa is not restricted to the master's program duration.
Not really, because your master's can actually be even for 1 year. We have students who graduate within a year and you are good, but your visa is for 5 years. But
yes.
Like I said, having a visa means nothing if you're on the other side and you're not going to school and you're not doing the other things that are needed to be done.
It's useless.
It's useless. The visa here, the one that you get is basically for you to land at one of the airports in the US and for the immigration officers to accept you to get into the country.
Okay.
Once you are in, you actually have to maintain your status as a student, which means you take the right courses, the minimum, at least the minimum courses. And now, when you're about to graduate, the first 2 months, you must find somewhere where you can work. If you don't have anywhere, the first 60 days, you're supposed to go back. Under kama ulikuwa na visa 5 years, you are supposed to come back.
Will they deport you?
If you don't come back, there are chances that, well, I can't say they will deport you, but because you see now, if you don't have anything, you are basically there illegally. You are not a student. You are not working. You are not, like, no one knows where you are. Okay, and that's usually a big challenge to a lot of our people. In fact, these are some of the things that we usually don't talk a lot more about it. But generally, at least 30% of Africans in the US, they are there without the right documents to live and work there. And guess what?
You believe so?
Yes, those are research that is out there. At least 30% of our people, they don't have the right document to live there. And the most interesting thing is most of those people went there as students. So walienda kama student, but they were not able to figure that out. How to transition. Now, umekuwa student, how do you get a job within those 60 days? And also, another thing. Now, for you to get the long term, remember, nimekuambia utapewa tu work authorization 1 to 3 years, depending on the course. But still, most people want to stay beyond the 3 years or beyond 1 year.
Yes.
But how do you go about that? For that, you need actually to find a company that is willing to sponsor you. And now for a company to sponsor you, they have to prove to the US government that you have skills that Americans don't have. Unaona sasa kwenye kumekuwa na kizungumkuti.
Hapo sasa.
Hapo.
Proving that you have something they don't have.
You have to show that you have the skills that Americans don't have. Otherwise, your petition won't go through. And you can't sponsor yourself. You have to find a company that can actually do that for you. So that's why a lot of our people get into troubles. You can't find a company that is willing to sponsor because maybe kitu yenye umesoma ama skills zenye uko nazo ziko na kila mtu. Kama mimi, by the way, I was struggling. Me, I had to extend school by 1 semester. Mimi nilikuwa nimeenda kufanya huko MBA. Hapa nilikuwa nimefanya BCom Finance and Accounting from Strath.
Yes.
I thought I would become an accountant. But you see also, there are so many accountants in America who are actually looking for jobs.
What makes you different from them?
What makes you different from them? Kwanza una experience. Mimi huku Kenya, nilikuwa teller. I used to work for Equity Bank, by the way. Hapa 2ST. Nilifanya hapo for about 6 months before sasa niende after graduate. So, job kama ya teller, for example, hiyo nilikuwa nimefanya hapa kama graduate. Yes. Do you know your job huko US ni job yenye inafanywa na mtu mwenye ako na high school diploma?
Na huko hapa Kenya unajivunia.
Hapa Kenya unajivunia. So now if it's a job that can be done by someone who has just a high school diploma, sasa hiyo utaambia sasa kampuni kusponsor ads, and that's a skill that almost everybody has.
My goodness.
Unaona? So it's a big challenge. So anybody who is out there and they really want to go and succeed, they have to know all these things. You can't just go blindly, because that's really what happens even with so many of them, and even with me when I went there.
Now Muti, there's a question by Kevin. Can I be working in the US and opt to do my online masters in Kenya as a cheaper option?
Work in the US, do online in Kenya? Why did you go to the US in the first place?
Unless it's the other way around.
Ama maybe you are studying online in a university that is in the US and work. Yo, swali maybe.
But swali ameuliza, can I be working in the US and opt to do my online masters in Kenya as a cheaper option?
You see, for you to work in the US,
because masters in.
You see, there's online classes,
Yes.
But you're kusema ati work in the US. You can't work in the US if you don't really have the work. Hata kama ni online, hata kama ni remote job, you still have to have some form of authorization for you to actually be able to work.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think maybe the question is a little bit not very clear.
Not very clear.
Yeah.
What about? Okay. So, but maybe you can ask that question again for us to get to understand.
Yep.
Let me read. This is Franklin. Franklin is saying US and UK are different. They always give 5 years, unlike the UK.
UK, right. I don't even know how many years the UK gives. By the way, no, I tried to go to the UK. I was denied visa 4 times.
Why?
I don't know. And
it's a complicated process.
It's not really you see, that's also where someone who knows this whole process comes in and can help you, because you don't know what to expect. Mimi nilikuwa naenda hiyo embassy, sijui hata kuongea. By the way, I grew up in a very humble family back in the village. Mi mezaliwa huko Meru, nimeenda local public primary school. Kizungu hata ilikuwa shida kwangu. Hakuna. Sasa mimi naenda hapo embassy bana, nakutana na wazungu na ni interview. You know, I'm not able to articulate the reasons why I'm going there, and that's why I was getting denied. You know, but at least when you have someone who tells you, okay, this is how you need to go about it, this is how you present yourself, this is how you talk, this is how you say what you are going to study, you're gonna get the visa. But now the problem with the UK right now as we speak, akunanga story as physical visa interview. I think you present your documents somewhere in, I don't know, I think in Westland somewhere, and then wanaangalia tu, so make sure your documents are good. Alafu unaenda una present, after a few days wanafanya, alafu wanakupea ama wanakunyima.
Let's come back to the conversation. We are talking about now US, still on the same, because I love the trajectory of the conversation. So we are looking at interviews.
Yes.
So process of succeeding in an interview. Tell me about that. How can I make sure that when I go there, I answer the right questions or I answer questions in the right way?
Now, one of the things that you really need to understand is that going to the embassy is very nerve-wracking.
Yes.
There will always be butterflies, you know, men, you know, but having the right preparation is key because, one, there's the way you present, even before you talk to somebody. If I come here for an interview, even before I talk, you can be impressed by the way I approach, the confidence, the way you know, those kind of things. Yes. Very, very important. Yes. And these are the things that people, they assume maybe they are not very necessary when it comes to interviews, but it's very, very important. Even the way you wear, you go to that visa interview, it matters a lot. And now, of course, you have to be able to tell the visa officer where you're going to study, what you are going to study, why that program, why that course. Why are you going to the US and not do it here in Kenya, for example? Why do you have to do it there? Now, if you have financing, like for example, we finance our students through student loans. Our students, they don't have to go with bank statements, like the way we talked about bank statement earlier. Okay. So if you have let's say for example, you have a student loan, how do you intend to repay this loan? Now, key thing, when you're going to look for a visa that is non-immigrant, which actually the student visa falls into that category, a non-immigrant visa, you have to prove your ties back in your country and show that you will be coming back. Because it's a non-immigrant. You are not going there to stay.
So you're not applying for a student visa?
It's a student visa, but a student visa is categorized as a non-immigrant visa, which means you have to prove to the visa officer that you have intentions of coming back, because this is not an immigrant visa, it's a non-immigrant. Uende ufanye kenye unaenda kufanya huko urudi. So how do you prove that? Yes, how do you prove that? You know, you have to show ties. For you to prove that, you have to show ties back to your country.
So you must prepare towards answering these questions.
And I always tell people, it's not just a matter of just giving the answer. It's how do you give that answer? How are you articulating the reasons why you are going to study? How are you giving that answer?
All right, Muti, what about family? I want to study abroad, but I have dependents. I have a spouse. I have children. What do I do?
Actually, the beauty of going to study as a student is that you can also take your family, your spouse and kids. But the catch here is, you also have to show, you can't just, a spouse, as a dependent, if you go there as a spouse, or a dependent for that matter, spouse, kids and all that, you are not allowed to work.
As a spouse?
As a spouse, or kids, you are not allowed to work. You are not allowed to work, so you're going to be staying there at home. That is the expectation. Now, the student, the primary person who is applying for the visa, in this case who is a student, they have to show, one, to the school that he has the money or she has the money to support you as a spouse and your kids. Extra, on top of what was required as a student, extra money for the spouse and kids. Secondly, also at the embassy, ukienda sasa kwa visa, utaulizwa, why do you want to go there as a spouse, and yet hata huko utakaa nyumbani, hakuna kitu unafanya. In fact actually watakuuliza utakuwa unafanya nini, so during the time that the other person is going to school. What will you be doing?
Basi you won't succeed in that particular interview.
Well, that's why I was telling you that you need to know how to express yourself and say the reasons why and what you're going to be doing around that time. Utakuwa unakaa chini? Hapana, hakuna kitu unafanya, because you are not allowed. Ukianza kusema sijui nini, I'll start looking for a job because now I don't have anything to do. X. Hakuna visa. So those are some of the things that you really need to know.
Muithi, thank you so much for coming.
No problem.
We have to end it there.
Asante sana.
At that point.
No problem.
Wow, it was an honor. And that is Bob Muithi, the director of Kenya Airlift Program. There is still a lot that we can talk about. I know you have questions and I know you've been...
I think we need to set some time again,
Sindio?
Tuongee hii story iishe.
Investing in higher education. Let's take a short break and but remember, Vivian Dego is still coming up next with a conversation about women at the forefront right here on Good Morning Kenya. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation. Keep engaging with us. My name is Ram Maguko. God bless you.
Ya Allah, taqabbal.
Tusiwe ni wenye kuhukumiana na tusiwe ni wenye kujaji wengine, yani kuambia tuwa encourage watu katika kufanya ibada na kuomba msamaha na kurudi katika nyumba za Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala.
Na vile vile pia mja anaweza kutekeleza vitendo vyema sana mpaka akawa karibu sana na janna, lakini akatenda kiovu kimoja ambacho kinampelekea kupata adhabu ya Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala na kuingia katika jahannam.
Namkosea nini Dingo mimi?
Umemsikia? Imekuwaje mpaka tangu yazungumza vile? Nalimia mpango wangu. Nimejua tu.
Mpango gani?
Ambao unapaswa wewe umelala saa hizi nawe.
Na uko macho unafanya nini hapo? Baba yako matatizo wewe. Upenda kuharibu malavidavi kweli. Nafikiri mimi nitakuruhusu uniue kiolela olela tu hivyo.
No member of this family should be working for this company now. And who else to trust if not family? Are you one of Joel's sons?
I need you to keep a close eye on Nick. I don't trust him fully.
He's nothing close to the truth.
Nick, baby. You've never been so big on character. What's changed?
Can I talk to you in private?
Yeah.
You cannot protect us all the time.
None of you can afford to be caught up in this mess.
I can wash my hands and let you handle this mess by yourself with Akina Jazz na your teeth.
There's someone trying to bring us down. Us?
Why do you think I'm here, Nick? Alice stole our data and document. Do you have any proof of that? We are working on it.
This is a matter of life and death.
It's already dead.
Really, George?
I warned you.
And thank you. I can't believe you're actually here.
Tulimuona vizuri na hata nilimuona kwa nikahakikisha nimemwona kwa sababu akiongea kuna jino haikuwa ni yeye, ni huyo hapa. Alisema anaitwa kwa daktari Mapoha.
What? Msichana sema ukweli ndio uachiliwe.
Hata hizi ziko huko kando zimeng'oka ndio hizo.
What do you mean? Ushaikuwa nini kulipishana pesa hapo kwa kadi?
Aje sasa kwani ni makanga?
Na uwezi kuwa makanga, si ndio? Very good. So nikielelekani umeleta hapa kwa hii koti.
Atikerere. Chunga maneno yako.
Sasa unajua hii mambo yote hawa watu wananiwekelea mheshimiwa. Manake sijawahi fanya kitu kama hii mheshimiwa. How shall you close me? How shall you?
Close, are you a door to be closed or a boot?
By the way. Lakini mheshimiwa ungeniangalia tu hapo.
Hebu toka tukamzee.
Forced to hide her origins.
Who are you? I am Esther. A Babylonian name.
And through love, she became a queen.
Forget your name, but never forget you're a Jew.
Because in the will of God, the salvation of an entire people depends on the courage of one woman.
Rise, Esther, Queen of Persia and Media. Hail to the Queen! The stability of the entire kingdom is in danger.
Esther.
Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Vivian Ndegwa. Now, globally, there are 1 to 4 cases of cerebral palsy in every 1,000 live births. Closer home, there are no official statistics. However, experts estimate that 1 in every 100 children in the country are living with the condition cerebral palsy. In the studio today, I am joined by Carol Chege, who is a mother to a child who lives with this condition and is also the founder of Precious Blessing Cerebral Palsy Foundation.
Carol.
Yes.
Welcome to Good Morning Kenya.
Thank you so much.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Thank you for the invitation.
Okay.
I really honor it.
We are pleased to have you here.
Thank
if
you.
you can just start by knowing what was the motivation behind you starting the Precious Blessing Cerebral Palsy Foundation?
Okay. It started as a result of us being blessed with a child who is living with cerebral palsy, Precious now, who is 8 years old, and we thank God for her. She's a champion. Because of her, the challenges that we have gone through, and nobody ever, reached out to us to encourage us, to tell us much about it. So I kind of thought of, starting a foundation that will be catering for their needs, for encouraging, such conditions, and generally to give hope. Yeah, like there's hope beyond the cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good initiative you have right there.
Thank you.
I would love for you to take me back to the point where you first were told about Precious's condition of having cerebral palsy. Just how was that moment like for you, and how did the doctor break the news to you?
All right. This is a condition that Precious got when she was being born through negligence at the hospital. But we forgave them and just decided to move on so that she could be able to focus on taking care of Precious. So no doctor ever told us about it until 2 years later when I took her for therapy sessions, of which we started when she was only 3 months. So this time I took her for therapy. Just after the therapy, I had requested the therapist that Precious needed to see a neuro. So there's this letter that they used to give as a referral from that therapy center to the neuro now. And so they still never told me about it. So in the letter, I happened that I read and I saw like there was a referral like, please, Dr. So-and-so, attend this baby. She's a CP case. I'm telling you, it was the worst moment of my life by then. It was very difficult because remember 2 years later, having a baby with a condition that we never knew about it. And the condition that we were given, we were told that Precious had a condition that was called HI2. HI2 is not CP, but it's a process of getting cerebral palsy. So kind of the doctor was hiding us from the truth. But this day, I thank God that the doctor never told us then. Because I'm telling you, it would have been bad for me or for us as the parents. Because remember here, Precious' birth was difficult. And now the baby was born with a condition. And then all the stress of that had the birth. And then finally I'm told the baby has a condition. It would have been bad. But then we used to blame them. But now, just the other day I met a doctor whereby we interacted. And then I found out it was better for them not, the fact that they never told us then, it was better. Yeah,
it was a blessing in disguise for you, them not telling you immediately.
Yeah, exactly. The doctors, you see, they are very wise. So they know if this mother, or the parents, we happen to tell them, break the news immediately, it might affect them, badly. So they are like, let the parents stay with their child. Gradually they'll go, noticing some milestones that are not normal. So that will prepare them mentally for the final report. And that's what happened to us. Though it wasn't easy, it was still very difficult for us. But then we had thought of, if they had told us earlier, it would have been better. Yeah, that was our condition. But it was still okay that we didn't know that early.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned that probably the doctor just knew that with time, due to the milestones that we always expect children to, cross, then you would know. So what are some of the early signs that you would say you spotted in your baby girl, Precious, as she was growing, and how old was she when you realized, okay, there are some things I'm seeing that I don't think are normal?
Was when she was 3 months old. Like, remember, Precious is our third born. So before that already we had raised before her. So we already knew that the milestone of our child. So by 3 months, there are things that we expected her to be, to have overcome, like to have grown. But now 3 months, actually she never even used to cry like how a newborn cries. She would cry just once in a while. But there's this particular day when she started screaming just from nowhere, like she could be sleeping and then all of a sudden she could just scream. Just keep quiet and sleep like nothing had happened. So she did like that for 2 days, and then me and my husband, we said like, no, there could be something wrong with this baby, let's go back to the hospital. And then at the same time, she was shaking one hand and one leg from the same side. So for us, we didn't know that was conversions. So we went to the hospital, we told the doctor what was happening, and definitely the doctor knew about it. He went back to the files. This went back to the hospital where she was born. So the doctor went back, looked at the file. Already he knew about it. So what he did, he introduced to Precious some anticonvulsant medications, of which still we didn't know that they were what they were actually. At least that stopped her, that shaking and screaming.
I'll have to cut you short a little bit. We'll need to take a very, very short break. We'll be back shortly. Mike yako iko na shida, wacha watengeneze.
이중건이는 사람에 대한 의심이 많아서 당신 같은 사람 만날 때 몸에 항상 몰카를 설치해. 안경, 시계, 단추 있다는 걸로. 보험두기 딱 좋으니까. 근데 그날은 단추에 몰카를 설치했더라고.
회장님!
웬 쇼를 하는구만, 어? 강 부장, 사장.
The 2022 general election in Kenya.
I, Susan Kihika, do hereby swear.
7 women governors.
Tabitha Karanja Kiroche, having been elected a member of the Senate.
3 women in the Senate.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the people and the Republic of Kenya.
29 women in the National Assembly. And 115 women in the county assemblies. For Nakuru County, it was a clean sweep. How did they beat the mythical odds? We answer this and more in our themed bulletin, Breaking Barriers, Women in Elective Politics in Kenya.
Before we took that short break, Carol was just explaining to us how she realized some of the signs that she got to see with her precious child by the name Precious Blessing, when she realized that things are not quite normal. You were talking about realizing that her hand and leg were shaking, and you didn't know that that was convulsions.
Yeah. So we went to the hospital. At least with doctors, they know all about these things. And also he went back to the files, to her files, because we went back to the hospital whereby she was born. So the doctor gave her some medications which were anticonvulsants, even though still they never told us that that was anticonvulsants. So he gave us some instruction, like how to be giving her. Like I was told, if I decide to be giving her, it was supposed to be taken once a day, of which until today. So I was told, if I decide to be giving her each day by 7 in the evening, I stick to the time. And that is what we do until today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How difficult is it raising a child with a condition of cerebral palsy?
It is so difficult. It is so expensive. It is so, it drains even financially, emotionally. Sometimes you feel alone, whereby sometimes people run away from you, even the friends or family, because there is this misconception in the society, like people they really haven't gotten to know what is CP exactly. Like it's not anything to do with witchcraft or people selling their children to the devil to get money or things to do with wife's place. There are these things where people see, especially here in Africa, like when a child has a problem, the problem belongs to the family of the wife. Such things, which it's not. The fact is, cerebral palsy is a pre-existing condition and it's a brain damage, and it has different causes. One could be lack of oxygen, maybe there was a negligence during delivery, or the mother maybe could have fallen during pregnancy, or maybe she took some medications which she was not supposed to take, or just something happened somewhere. Remember, it's a pre-existing condition. So it means at some point it was not there, but something just happened and this condition came in. Yeah, it's not easy to take care of our babies. But we call them champions. They are champions, yeah, because they fight for their lives like every day through the medications that they take, through the therapy session that we take them. They need them like literally almost every day, like 3 times in a week. We celebrate them. We call them champions. We call them blessings, despite the challenges that we go through. Because at the end of the day, we believe that every child is a blessing from the Lord.
True.
Yeah, somewhere,
somebody
somewhere is crying for a baby. There are people who say like, God, even if you give me a disabled child, at least I be called a mother to so and so, I'll be grateful. So each child is a blessing. We love them. We have embraced them. We accept them. Just the way they are, and life moves on.
You mentioned that it is expensive.
Yes.
To take care of a child with cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
How expensive is it? Is it the treatment side, or just get me into how expensive it is?
Generally, everything about it, around it, made from diapers. Remember, this baby is a child who you can't do potty training or can't use a toilet. So that means that baby is on diapers every day. Depending on the age of the child, maybe it's a young child, but maybe could be using between 4 to 5 in a day, and then maybe the child could be a grown-up and an adult. Their diapers are very expensive. Also, there are these anticonvulsants that they must take on a daily basis. Failure to that, they can get convulsions that can even kill them. There are these therapy sessions. They are very crucial. They need them so that even though they might not, recover from the condition, but at least the therapy session enables them, to better. Like if it's the hands, they will not fold. If the legs, they will not, like tiptoe, just to maintain the condition such that it won't worsen more than how it is. Yeah. Also, the special meal. Like for example, my family now, we must make 2 meals. Like Precious meal and our meal, because the food that they take is different from ours. It has to be something very soft, something that is very liquid. Like she can't take anything that is solid. Yeah, so there are those things. Yeah, sometimes if the child happens to be going to a school, their school are special schools. Actually call them special units. They are very expensive. Come to even their maybe transport. That child can't sit like Precious now. She uses a wheelchair. That means you can't put her on a car and be able to sit by herself. She'll need support. So you must look for a car that will suit her. So generally around them, in a month, roughly their budget can go up to 50K. Yeah. Even there's some milk, like for Precious, what she uses. She has been an underweight baby for quite some times because they are feeding. Like you find that for our feeding now, it takes around 1 hour to 1.5 hours feeding her.
Yeah.
Because she eats very slowly, because of the condition, her swallowing was affected, so she has to swallow very slowly. I have to be very patient with her, just to go with her pace. And if I'm not careful, she can even get choked and die. So I really do take time, good care like that. So it's much about it. But what we do, sometimes you find like the parent or the caregivers, we don't have that money. So what we do is just that we offer them what we are able. Yeah, as long as God knows we are not denying the child the things that they need. So we just offer what is there, and we trust God.
Because
and we
I'm imagining 50,000 is not, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. So I'm imagining for a parent who's somewhere, uko mashinani kabisa, maybe they don't even have work. What do they do? Where do they get 50,000 for one child when they have maybe other children that they need to cater for? That is a lot. That is a lot. And does maybe insurance cover some of, insurance cover some of this?
Very rare, because what they say is there are some times whereby they say they don't cover pre-existing conditions that excludes the CP condition. Yeah, so you have to deal with it from your pocket, unless there are some other insurance that are doing it. But so far I know not of any.
Okay, that must be a lot. And you mentioned earlier things to do with misconception and people assuming that you chawi, or there has to be something that you did. You also told me off there that some people even think it's polio, so they blame the mother. Why didn't you take your child to get a polio vaccination? What are some of the things that you would love the public to know about this condition, so that they stop judging you? And also, what can we as a community do to the caregivers and parents of children with CP?
Okay, for one, I would want the community to know CP is a pre-existing condition. It's not our wish to have children living with disabilities, but they also makes us to have a difficult life. But we don't complain. We have accepted it. It's our lives, and for some reasons, just God found it okay for us to, to raise these angels for Him. Our children, they are angels. They are sinless. They are pure souls. So we are raising them for God. Yeah. So I would want the community to understand that for somebody to have to be blessed with a child who is living with difficulties or disabilities or cerebral palsy, maybe whatever kind of disability. For one, nobody requested for it. It just happened. It just came, and it can happen to anyone. Yes. Even for us, we never knew about it. It was very shocking. Before Precious, I think before that, I was not familiar with the cerebral palsy, so it was very new. So if you see a parent with such a baby, encourage them, love them, tell them it's okay, support them in one way or another. And M-Pesa works also. Buy them a diaper, shop for them, visit them, encourage them. At least be a blessing in the way that you are able to do. Just be there for that parent. Just know that disability is there. It has been there even from the times of Jesus. It was there, and it's something that is. It's not that us parents who are blessed with them, our children just the way they are. It's not that like we deserved, like we sinned. The people who said like, if you see this parent with these children, God is punishing them. They did something evil. No, it's not anything like that. Or something like we sold our children to the devil to get money. No, we can't do that. It's not like that. Or something like we tried to abort. No, or something like like these are things from the wife's family. It's so unfortunate. There are marriages that have broken because of children who are born with disabilities. Once the child is born, the husbands just decide to take off and just decide to abuse the wife and tell the wife like, these are your things, please go ahead with it.
I really don't understand why it's always blamed to the female, to the mother. But anyway, maybe that's a story for another day. Well, what do you do in the foundation?
Okay, now because of pressures. Initially, even before she was born, I used to tell my husband, like one time, we'll open our children's home. But now, after Precious was born, I just had to change this mind, whereby I was like, now, there are things that Precious needs, such as a therapy center, a school, and a hospital. I have an experience whereby I went to a hospital. I took Precious when she was young. She had something like flu. Went to a hospital, and then the doctor looked at me, and he was like, you mama, why have you brought this baby here? And I was like, because she's sick. And the doctor was like, no, as in you don't know the hospitals like where you are supposed to take your baby. It was so hard. So in my mind, my mind started growing. Like one day, one time.
Is also at hospitals where you expect these medics, they understand this condition.
It's unfortunate. Like that doctor expected me to have taken Precious to the doctors who deals with CP children. So because of that and other things, I changed my mind. I said like one time, God will help me to open a foundation whereby we'll be catering for children living with cerebral palsy and other disabilities, whereby we'll be meeting their needs, such that the diapers, the foodstuffs, therapy session, now for therapy center, and a hospital and such. So because of that, I started now working towards it. I opened a WhatsApp group of parents who has children like Precious, children living with cerebral palsy only. At least it's a condition that I understand because of Precious. So far we are 115 of us, and we do organize events for us, the members. And when I say of members, I know we have a lot of CP cases. They are more than what I have, but because of managing the foundation, the number, I just decided to stay with this number, like the 115 of them, because personally I don't have money that I get from my pocket. Remember I said my work is Precious, so like nobody pays me. I'm there taking care of Precious. So what I do, I thank God for the favor, for the support of like my church. I'm a worshiper at Deliverance Church and Bishop Mark Kariuki and his wife Reverend Joyce and Reverend Margaret Moshai. They are such supports, they are such a blessing, and all members of Deliverance Churches, that could be Deliverance Church, Majestic City, Kangundo Road, KPCU, or Two Rivers. They are such supporters, and also my friends on Facebook and other friends. So when I plan these events, we plan together with my patron, who happened to be Reverend Margaret. We go to people, we tell them, as at least so far, our churches knows about us. So we tell them our needs, the diapers, the foodstuffs. So what they do, they either shop for us or they bring the foodstuffs themselves to the church, and then, yeah, we are sorted. We set a date for the occasion. We share what we have. Yeah.
You are truly a woman at the forefront. You are doing the Lord's work, actually. It is very commendable.
Thank you.
You're doing a good job. You're doing a good job. So as you've mentioned, you have 115 members in the foundation. I'm sure that you interacting with all these members, 115 of them, there are some burdens that they face. Could you just touch on some of these burdens?
Okay. Remember we said that in our foundation, we are all parents of the same, condition, and we say that we are parents blessed with the same blessings. Like our children are blessing, they have the CPS, we have accepted, we are moving on. There are challenges. The best thing about being in a group, we share, we encourage each other. When one is down, we uplift each other. We give, like ideas. Like for me, sometimes I go there, I'm like, what do we do, to increase weight? Like someone will come out there and we give some ideas, like their experiences, like that. Someone else will ask, like, especially this thing of weight, it really affects a lot of our children. So most of us, sometimes we are there about sleeping patterns and sometimes even weight. So we are like, we share about it and we feel free. So challenges are many. Some people can come there and say, like, for me, my mother-in-laws, they really hate me. I don't even go home. Who else has this kind of, challenge? How do you feel about it? What do you do about it? Yeah, so challenges are many, but at least in the group we share, we educate each other, and we don't condemn each other because we understand we are in the same shoe, so we know how it, it pinches.
He who wears the shoe knows exactly, where it pinches, as you have mentioned. Now, to maybe a parent who's watching the show right now and they have a child with cerebral palsy, but they don't have any support group. Yours is a support group because you're many of you and you share the same experience, so you have each other to lean on. So for someone who's watching us back at home right now, and maybe it's so bad for them, they feel like giving up. You had told me earlier that some even commit suicide, some even kill the child and wish the child dies. What word do you have for them?
I would tell them, brace yourself, accept the challenge. It's not easy. I am in that shoe. I know how much it pinches, but just ask yourself, if it were you who is living that condition, how would you want to be treated? Wouldn't you want to be loved? Wouldn't you want to be embraced? So do the same. I'm sure you'll say yes. Your answer is yes. So do the same to that child. Love the child, accept the child, brace the child. Love, love conquers everything. It wins. So it's not easy, but encourage yourself. Know God. At least by knowing God, your heart becomes better rather than someone who doesn't have faith. So it's not easy, but brace yourself, love the child, accept the challenge, try to do some research. The other thing, mix with other parents who are blessed with the same children. If your family members are not accepting you, they're not, loving you, what I say is that family is beyond, blood. It's not about blood relationship. If a person who is, embracing you and it's not your family, that is your family. Love that person. Be communicating, be talking, because there is therapy. By talking, expressing yourself, there is healing that happens. That looks like counseling. So be open, ask questions what you don't understand about the condition. Just do some, some research here and there, and also you can reach out to me. We can talk 1, 2, 3. Yes.
How do they reach out to you?
Okay, you can go to Facebook. My account is Blessings Bonnie. You will find me there. Still, you can get me on my number, which is 0724 661967. 0724 661967. You'll get me, and also I can add you to a WhatsApp group whereby we'll be communicating, we'll be giving each other hope. So don't die alone. That's what I say.
Don't die alone.
Don't die. Actually, we still need you, and your child needs you more. Just imagine if your child's life is still difficult when you are there, what would happen if you die? That means that child will also follow you, and I'm sure you don't want that to happen. So please reach out, look for support groups, look out for people who can help you. Also, join a church and let your pastor know about it. There's this one thing that I say. Like for me, I just decided, if I lock myself in the house, just cry there with the precious, of which I used to do initially when I was in a stage that we call denial. Who will know your needs? Who will know you are out there? And maybe your angel is next door. But until you wake up and raise up your hand, raising up your hand could be in your church, talk, let them know. In the community, use the social medias, talk, do the awareness. You may not get outside there, literally asking for help, but through doing the awareness, God will use people, and at the end of the day, you'll be blessed. Someone will come with a diaper, someone will send you something small to support the baby, and your life will be better. So by sharing, you'll get help through one way or another. I'm just sure God will send you some angels. Very true.
They say that God does not give you something that you cannot handle. So in his own ways, he'll find a way to make sure he sustains you. Now 8 years on of you raising Precious, as we have said, this is a condition that most people don't know about. You know, most people don't really know. So when you say Precious has this condition, if you can just elaborate, what are some of the pre-existing conditions that they have? You know, I read that some have an issue with hearing, some can't, raise their necks well. Just take us through some of these conditions.
Okay. Like for a CP, a severe case, CP has 3 stages. We got the one that is mild, that one we recover with time. We start with there's mild, then there's severe, and also there's other one that they just suffer for just the first few days of their birth, and then they recover. But mild, they may do almost everything, but maybe they have some delay. Like they will do it slowly. If he's talking, they just, talk slowly. If he's schooling, they will still school. But mind you, CP kids, when they go to school, the one that they are able to read, they are such champions. Like they are very sharp. They even graduate. I have several who have graduated, with, honors classes. Wow. I'm telling you. So some of the things, like now for severe cases, like for our daughter now, Precious, like initially she didn't have sight. When she was born, she didn't have sight the first few days, for a week or so, and then after that, up to now, she doesn't have neck control. Like her neck still moves, like it's not strong. She's not able to sit. She uses a wheelchair. Anytime we need her to sit, she's on a wheelchair. She can't feed herself. She can't reach out to anything, like no speech. For her communication, she uses what we call cooing. You know that cooing of a young baby? She still does the same, plus other sounds. So what God does in his own ways, there's this language that he calls angelic language, whereby our babies communicate through sounds. These sounds are not anything that we learned from anywhere. It's just that our child, they produce the sound, and then God helps us to understand them. Like she could produce a sound when she's not happy, and they will understand. There's a sound she will produce when she's hungry, I will know. There's a sound that she will produce when she's uncomfortable with visitors, I will know. And it's not that there's a school for such, no. If they use a sign language, you'd have gone to school for them. But now, whatever language they use, no, there isn't. It's between us, God, and them. He really helps us and understand them.
Wow, okay. I'm looking at my time, and I'm like, we have around 4 minutes, so I don't know what to answer so that we cover everything and what to leave behind. But there's, on your mission, the mission for your foundation, there's somewhere where you say that the condition, or rather cerebral palsy, is not a disease. And that is what you'd love people to take home. It is not a disease, it is a condition. Kindly elaborate so that they understand what you want them to actually get from that statement.
Okay. When you talk of a condition is something that no one can overcome. What we do is manage it. We manage it, like for CP cases, we manage it through therapy sessions and conversants. Like the medication that they take is just for managing. It's not like they will get better. Like today the baby has CP, tomorrow they will recover. There's nothing like that. By the way, let nobody ever lie to you. Like they'll take you to somewhere, buy some herbals to treat the, the condition, or take you to India for something there. No, there's no treatment. A disease is something that is treatable with a period of time. The person, gets well. But a condition is something that you manage for a lifetime, unless the Lord does a miracle, because I know he does. Like I know of a child who had a CP like Precious. Like nothing much the baby was doing. Most of the times, if the baby is not on the wheelchair, we just let them lie maybe on a couch there, and they watch the cartoons. Maybe you're in the kitchen doing 1, 2, 3, and then this baby, the Lord just touched the baby, and she woke up. I'm telling you, the baby didn't have neck control. didn't have like any movement, but just like this, it happened, and the baby, walked. The mother screamed and ran away.
So there are miracles. Miracles do happen.
Yeah, so usually I don't say like they can't recover, no. Usually I leave a space for God. I know God can do it.
Yes, because I was to answer, is this a condition whereby you just know when you have a child with cerebral, you know this is a lifetime thing?
Yeah.
Or there is hope, like there are those who recover. You mentioned there are those with mild conditions that actually recover.
Yeah, true.
So for a parent who is taking care of a child with cerebral palsy, your word to them is, well, they can actually recover. God can,
God
work
can do
his
a miracle.
miracles.
Yeah, but the best thing also to do is to know how severe is the case of your child, you as a parent or as a caregiver, so that you stay with the hopes of like just know exactly the truth about it. Like for us, we know for Precious, nobody can come to us and tell us like, can I sell you these herbals or this medication? Precious will be fine. No, that one we just know. What we need is the right medication, the right anticonvulsants, just to manage the condition. And then if for healing, we leave it to God. If one day he will decide to heal her, that will be well and good. But for anything to do with medication, that one we just leave it like that. Yeah.
There's the issue of education before time is before our time is up. You say that they go to school. There are schools that actually accommodate children living with cerebral palsy. For the person who maybe cannot afford the schools, because you mentioned it's also very expensive. Is there can homeschooling be done for them as well? Maybe do you know of any maybe tutors who can who teach students suffering from that condition at home?
So far, I don't know of any, and they are very rare also. Like the best thing, if you can get a government school, like where Precious goes to school, she goes at Parklands Primary. At least they have a branch for CP children, whereby there's nothing much that they do. Like she can't write, she can't, read, but what they do, they do music for them. And then she gets therapy sessions at school 3 times a week. Actually, that is the main thing that also made us take her there. And also for interaction, the fact that also she's not locked in the house. These children, you can know them by the expressions. How a baby is kept, you know them once you meet the baby. The child who is locked, you just know. A child who is exposed, you just know. And a baby who is exposed, it's better. Because you can imagine if it's even yourself, whereby you are just kept in a room, you are locked there when visitors come. They don't even get to know you are there unless you sound there. So it's better to expose their children, no matter, even if they don't get so much, whatever they are able to get, it is better. Even that's the exposure means a lot to them.
Thank you so
therapy
much.
Sessions.
Thank you so much for coming to the show and just spreading awareness on cerebral palsy. And all the best with your foundation. And once more, you're doing a commendable job.
Thank you.
Okay, this is where we call it a wrap right here on Good Morning Kenya. For everyone who has made this program a success, we say thank you. Right now, we head straight to the Senate for the live proceedings. I have been your host, Vivian Ndegwa. See you tomorrow.
Watu wa Maimahiu mupo! Stesheni uipendayo ya Shoro FM imekuandalia tamasha kali ya Mugithi Night Jumamosi tarehe 5 Agosti mwaka huu hapo VIP Nest Lounge Maimahiu. Karabi na bendi yake wataporomosha burudani kabambe kuanzia saa 2 za usiku hadi che. Ma MC wetu wa nguvu Mwana Mwende, Joseph Njenga na makoha wa vioja mahakamani wamewatayarishia vichekesho kemkema na zawadi kocho kocho za kushindaniwa. Mafansu wa Naivasha na Mai Mahiu mnaombwa kujitokeza tujumuike pamoja kupiga sherehe. Hii itakuwa kali sana.
Namkosea nini Dingo mimi?
Umemsikia?
Nimekuaje mpaka tangu yazungumza vile? Nalimia mpango wangu.
Nimejua tu. Mpango gani?
Amba unapaswa wewe umelala saa hizi nawe. Na wako macho wanafanya nini hapo? Baba yako matatizo wewe. Upenda kuharibu malavidavi kweli. Nafikiri mimi nitakuruhusu uniue kiolela tu hivyo.
The 2022 general election in Kenya.
I, Susan Kihika, do hereby swear.
7 women governors.
Tabitha Karanja Kiroche, having been elected a member of the Senate.
3 women in the Senate.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the people and the Republic of Kenya.
29 women in the National Assembly and 115 women in the county assemblies. For Nakuru County, it was a clean sweep. How did they beat the mythical odds? We answer this and more in our themed bulletin, Breaking Barriers, Women in Elective Politics in Kenya.
This is the morning sitting of the proceedings of the Senate, brought to you by the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation.